This week on the Jock and Nerd podcast, the Ginger Geek Matt Delhauer returns to deliver a new edition of What the Fuck Happened. This time, Delhauer goes to the depths of hell and back for you, listener, as he recaps and breaks down the Keanu Reeves-led Constantine from 2005. That's happening right here in this edition of the Jock and Nerd Weekly for Monday, August 15th, 2022.
Oh, hi, I didn't hear you come in. This is Ross Marquand from The Walking Dead, and you're listening to the Jock and Nerd podcast. Now, if somebody could please explain to me what a geek boner is, my life would be complete. Until then, rock on, nation.
Check. Check one. All right. This is for all you fans out there. Let's give it up. Jock it, we nerd it. We funny, disturb it. We jock it, we nerd it. We spoiler alert. Oh yeah!
Hello, what's up, listener? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we give you comic book and superhero TV and movie news, reviews, and whatever we choose. Jock and Nerd. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's a nerd.
And joining us, he's kind of a sorcerer in his own right, kind of a magician of the ginger species. He is the Ginger Geek, Matt Delhauer. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys? I'm not magical, I'm just bi, so that's the most I have in common with John Constantine.
That's pretty magical.
Yeah, I guess.
Although is the version of Constantine we get in this movie, is he bi?
No, I would call him asexual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unclear. You do audio magic, though, Delhauer. You bring audio magic every time you're on. Wait, are we going into a flashback? No one told me.
Yes, Imran, God damn it.
That reminds me of like the Batman 66. Like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Pow! Bam! Yes.
Zorp.
Splat. Okay, enough of the onomatopoeias, everyone. Delhauer, for the new listener, why don't you tell? They've seen the title. We got you back for a new What the Fuck Happened edition. I believe it's been about a year.
It's been
What's
a
the last
while,
one we
man.
did?
Yeah, last one was Steel.
It was Steel.
Oh,
yeah.
It was
wow.
like a year ago. So.
I think that was fall of last year or so.
Yeah. We've been a little behind, but this is going to be a good one.
I've been slacking. I get it. I do that. That's my brand.
It's fine. You're right on brand. At least you're consistent.
Yeah. It's just going to be, as time goes on, we went from doing like one every 3 months
Yep.
to every 6 months to a year, and soon enough, I'm not going to show up for fucking 5 years.
It's gonna be.
And then the show's going to end, and then we're going to have an instance where it's like, oh, it's a reunion show, and it's a what the fuck happened because Matt can't not be noticed.
We do this every leap year now, everybody. Like the Olympics. No, listen, tell the new listener what they're going to be experiencing in our What the Fuck Happened series, and then tell them what movie and why we chose this movie, or you chose this movie.
Hello, listener. New listener, I should say. I'm Matt Delhauer. You haven't heard my voice yet. This is What the Fuck Happened, where we take a look at comic book movies that were not great. And we talk about them, we decipher through the story, we have a little chit-chat, we make some jokes, but we ultimately try and figure out why did this movie not do as good as it could have. And today, if you have looked at the title, which I assume you did because you pressed play on this episode, we are going to be talking about 2005's Constantine.
Ooh. This was your choice. Why how do we land on this?
We landed on this mostly because I remember seeing this movie in the theater, and I remember enjoying this movie when it was in the theater.
Uh-huh.
And I remember being told to my face that this movie was bad, and that because I never read the Hellblazer comic, that's why I liked it. And that I was wrong.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's start there real quick with our movie watching histories. I think I only watched this movie once when it came out not in the theater. I think I waited till it came out on DVD or whatever. Watched it once, and I was like, it's all right, and I kind of forgot it, and then recently rewatched it. Anthony, how many times have you watched this?
I finished this about 3 minutes before we started recording.
The first time?
Yes.
Oh, God. I am
wow.
so excited to hear Anthony's virgin take on Constantine.
Well,
I was familiar with I remember seeing the movie being marketed as a. How old was I? 8, 6, 7, 16, 17?
I was going to say 2005, so you would have been 17.
okay.
Yeah, so I was about 17. I remember it being marketed. Had no idea Constantine was part of any sort of comic. Just looked at like it looked like the Neo movie with like ghosts and shit and demons. That's what I felt like it was.
You and I were at the age where this shit was aimed directly at our demographic.
Yeah, good point. But look, even before that, let me set this up real quick because this movie Constantine, based on the character John Constantine from DC Comics, who first appeared.
Imran.
Yeah.
Imran.
Yeah.
Pronounce it right.
Oh, it's Constantine, isn't
it? It is.
That's how they say it in the movie, don't they? And the first time I was like, wait, why are they saying Constantine? I prefer to call him John Constantine.
Well, so yes, that's the problem. According to the creators, the comic book character is named John Constantine.
Oh, fuck. I've been saying
the movie pronounced it John Constantine because we're Americans and that's how we read things.
John, okay. Wow, I've been saying it wrong my whole life. John Constantine, character first appeared in the Swamp Thing, issue 37, way back June 1985. John Constantine, created by Alan Moore, Stephen R. Bissett, Rick Veitch, and John Totalben. And it wouldn't be until 1988 that he gets its own ongoing Vertigo series from DC titled Hellblazer that ran through 2013. And if you have not read any of these, do yourself a favor. Go get the trades. I remember, look, the 90s, I was in art school. I was reading Sandman and the Hellblazer. It was all dark and gothic and emo, and it was fucking fantastic. I love the 90s. So that was a hell of a time to be into these comics because they were a little more adult. They were Vertigo, right?
Yeah.
The movie on Rotten Tomatoes, sitting at a 46% tomato meter, 5.5 out of 10. Audience rating, 72%. This movie was made for about $100 million. $70 to $100 million is the budget I could find. It opened only to $29 million opening weekend. Finishes worldwide box office $230 million off the $100 million budget. Only makes like $75 million domestic. It was in the theaters for a long time, and then just couldn't get it moving. This movie is the directorial debut of one Francis Lawrence, who after this made I Am Legend, directed I Am Legend. This guy did a lot of music videos. Like,
wait, you're just gonna skip over him doing all the Hunger Games?
Well, after he does music videos, he starts to get into movies. It's Constantine, I Am Legend, and then he's like the Hunger Games guy now. He does Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1, Part 2. I believe he's working on yet another Hunger Games movie.
It is very interesting to me that the first Hunger Games movie was basically an independent movie based on a book written by a woman, with the first movie directed by a woman.
Oh, yeah.
And then it made a shit ton of money.
And they gave it to a man.
And they went, let's have this white dude direct every other movie in this series.
Yeah, how did he end up as the Hunger Games guy? I don't know. He also did that movie Red Sparrow with J-Law, so they had a good time.
I guess they got along.
Yeah, working together. The movie has quite an incredible cast, actually. If you just listen to these names. Keanu Reeves as John Constantine, Rachel Weisz, a young Shia LaBeouf, Jimon Hunsu. You got Gavin Rossdale. Yes, that one.
In his one and only acting role.
The guy from Bush, who's never has a shirt on when he's performing live. Briefly married to Gwen Stefani. That Gavin Rossdale. Tilda Swinton. Peter Stormare. So, quite an eclectic, fucking crazy cast. I love it. Listener, join this conversation before I turn it over to Delhauer. We have a Facebook group. It's called Jock and Nerd Nation. There's a link in the description. It's closed, exclusive, just for you. Let us know what you thought about Constantine. And with that...
Well, you can call the movie Constantine. That's what they say in the movie.
They do say Constantine. But on, we'll talk about the Sandman show later.
Did I just gaslight you into remembering the name in the movie incorrectly?
What are we talking?
You've really confused him.
Wasn't it Bernstein Bears? The fuck is going on? On the Sandman show, we'll talk about the Sandman show, but they pronounce it Constantine. on that show, I believe. Anyways, Delhauer, got you here. Roll camera. Camera's rolling. Speed. Okay. And action, Delhauer.
The first thing I'm going to say is before we get into anything, with Imran pushing you guys to go to the Facebook page and interact, I want you to pause right now. I want you to go to the Facebook page. Let us know that you are giving us your opinion of the movie before you have heard anything we have said.
Oh, I like that. Or the group. Go to the group or the page or just send us a comment. Yes.
Whichever one.
Yeah.
Do that, then come back, listen to the episode, and then I want you to comment on your own post about how you feel afterwards.
Excellent. It's a fun game.
Okay. So here we are, camera rolling. We are brought up initially on Constantine from 2005, and I'm going to say, with some dope-ass production logos. We got WB, we got Vertigo DC, and these things are burning, they're falling apart, and we are going to see why when we get to view the depiction of hell in this movie later on. There are some amazing forms of CG in this movie, and there are also some not-so-great forms of CG in this movie. But I feel like these production titles, as well as the hell sequence, are on the better side of that.
All right. Yeah.
We open, as any great movie does, with a quote in text across the screen that is meant to explain essentially the most important part of the movie to us before we even get into it. And it tells us, "He who possesses the spear of destiny holds the fate of the world in his hands." By the way, it's been missing since World War II. We open up in Mexico, and you can tell it's Mexico, one, because it has the title that says Mexico, and two, because apparently we've decided in this movie that Mexico is a squalid wasteland of filth and no money. As two young men are at some sort of, I don't know, ruins in Mexico, I guess. Or possibly a soon-to-be construction site. I can't tell. It's just concrete blocks in the desert. And they're just picking through garbage, I think. So I don't know if that's like they're trying to find bottles to recycle, like, you know, all those people down in Chinatown in New York. Or if they're literally just digging in the dirt for fun because this movie's decided that Mexico is a third-world fucking country.
Just dirt. Nothing but dirt in Mexico.
But one of them happens upon boards covered in the thinnest layer of dirt that just disintegrate under his foot as he finds a secret chamber in Mexico that houses a small Nazi flag that is wrapped around the Spear of Destiny.
Whoa.
The item we were told has been missing since World War II is discovered in the first 2 minutes of this movie.
It was right there, only 6 inches below the surface.
If only they had searched in Mexico and just stomped on the ground a bunch.
The Germans are like, nah, it can't be in Mexico. Come on, let's move it on.
Here's the thing. I'm assuming a German put it there.
Probably.
Because if it was wrapped in a Nazi flag, I guess that's where they hid it.
You're not exactly doing a good job hiding that.
No.
This is the best that they could do. They you know, a lot of people love to talk about how bad the Nazis were, and they're right, and this proves it.
And you'd think it'd be like in a crypt behind a curse and a whole thing. No.
Like,
right there.
Indiana Jones told me that the Nazis had the ability to, like, think. This is the equivalent of stuffing it in a cabinet.
He was like, I'm going to leave it right here. It's fine.
No one's going to search the drawer next to the stove.
It also, it's that ongoing just trope. Well, I mean, you know, the Nazis were evil, but let's just associate the Nazis with anything super evil because they're just hand in hand at this point.
The thing I find interesting, it says, "He who possesses the Spear of Destiny holds the fate of the world in their hand." So why did the Nazis get rid of that?
Why'd they lose?
So it's like, oh, if we have it, we're going to win this war.
Yeah.
You know what we should do? Hide it.
In Mexico.
In Mexico.
Okay.
So the guy who finds it immediately becomes possessed by it. We can tell because he instantly gets this like branded tattoo of essentially a Celtic cross in his arm and just starts walking straight in one direction. His buddy tries to call out asking, "What are you doing?" He doesn't answer, and then he gets hit by a fucking car. And that car crumples around him as if he was one of the 7 on the fucking boys. So, apparently, not only does this spear possess you, but it makes you super fucking human. And so that guy in the car, he dead. And that guy who got hit by the car, he's walking.
Manuel is just fine, though.
And the third guy who was like, what are you doing? He's going to go home and probably have himself a beer. Title card. Welcome to Constantine. Traveling from Mexico, we go to the farthest point from Mexico we can, Los Angeles. Constantine, played by our beloved Keanu Reeves in 2005, looking exactly like he did in The Matrix, maybe a bit more hair. He arrives chain-smoking cigarettes to an apartment building somewhere in Los Angeles. What we have discovered in the previous scene is that a young mother who was making tea for her daughter just happened upon finding out that her daughter is possessed by a demon. Constantine arrives to be told by this overweight priest who I guess is his friend, but also really just kind of comes off as a major stan of him, telling him, I found you a good one, John, which means he clearly wants a pat on the head and to be told he's a good boy. John Constantine now decides he is going to go upstairs to discover what's going on with this possession, as he discovers that this girl is in fact possessed by a demon. It is a soldier demon, as he says. Through trickery that involves him using a mirror, a bunch of guys swinging that mirror and just kind of punching this girl in the neck. He tricks the demon into leaving her body to be trapped in this mirror that he then throws out of a window and destroys on the ground. No, not on the ground. On the hood of the cab that brought him here. Driven by his friend, his best friend. Oh my God, why did I forget his name already? Chaz, thank you. I was like, immediately the name Chris came into my mind. I'm like, that's not it.
Played by our boy, Shia LaBeouf.
Played by American sweetheart, Shia LaBeouf.
Doesn't he tell him in that scene, move your car, and he moves
looks
it
out
to that spot?
First off, he throws a chair through the window to open it. And then he yells out the window to Chaz, move the car! And he goes, okay, and he backs up 4 feet. And so, which means that the hood of the car is still directly under the window.
Yeah, poor communication there.
If he is yelling from that window, move the car, why would you ever assume he didn't mean clear the area below this window?
Yeah, that scene confused me. I was thinking, he's moving the car to catch something.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's got to be the logical reason that he decided to back up and go right by under the window.
You mean move it closer?
Oh, nope, you're an idiot.
No, it's just that he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Chaz
so
Kramer.
The mirror, yes. In the middle of this exorcism, we get the moment where Constantine uses his wonderful line of, "This is Constantine, John Constantine, asshole."
I love it.
Which apparently works because the demon freaks the fuck out at that.
I'll say just real quick, that little recreation of The Exorcist, not terrible.
Dude, it was kind of cool with the mirror.
Actually,
yeah.
What I think I really like about it is this is a moment, and you get a lot of this in the movie that I do really appreciate. This is a moment where we don't have anything explained to us. We learn through the action happening in the scene what is going on. Like, John walks in, he puts the cigarette down. By cutting back to the cigarette burning, we're basically being told just how much time is passing in what's going on.
Yeah.
But he goes to the window, and the first thing he does is he is going through this like key ring of holy metals, and he's waiting to see which one of them then makes the girl react and realizes this is the one I have to use. He does. Puts it on her skin. She starts screaming. Says the name Constantine. The demon freaks out, which then tells us, he has a history with these beings. The whole thing with the mirror means that this is a thing he's done before. It's a trick that works and has worked well enough that it's his first go-to idea. This movie has a lot of world building that they do in a way where they don't spoon feed anything to you, and it's actually done well.
Yeah, they just show you. And that's that little bit where he's like, don't look at her, and the dude looks and his like hair turns white.
He goes full on fucking Lovecraftian horror.
my God,
where his hair turns white and he goes insane.
Yeah, little details. And the thing's trying to smash out the mirror, but I was like, that's pretty dope, this scene.
The thing that I have to question, though, is that it's trying to smash through the mirror. It gets its arm through.
Yeah.
And so he makes a comment later on that we'll touch on where he talks about like, these things can't cross over. Well, if it broke through the mirror, would have it crossed over?
Yeah.
Because then that means that it's actually kind of really easy for them.
Right.
But anyway, smashes the mirror. Demon's gone. Girl's safe. He's happy. He goes back to smoking his cigarette. And he walks down, but before he leaves the apartment, what he notices is a drawing on the wall that this girl did of the Spear of Destiny.
Oh, yeah.
So he takes it with him. As he's downstairs, he's talking to the priest that he's with. They have a whole conversation about how, he's an alcoholic, and he has this medal around his neck that's supposed to protect him from demons or voices or something. We don't really know yet. But throughout this entire scene, it's very obvious that this demon just wants Daddy Constantine to fuck him. Like, he is so desperate for that fucking
John.
validation kink. Like, I was good to you, right, John? I got you a good job, right, John?
Got a good one, John.
What a strange way to set up this priest that's supposed to be his friend.
I know.
It's so odd in the fact that what we learn from like every connection he has in this movie is that not only are they all oddballs, but they all fucking worship Constantine, and he gives zero shits about any of them until the script tells him he needs to.
Yeah.
All right. Drunk priest is desperate to bang Constantine. Next note. John goes home. If we all remember our Green Lantern movie, the best thing to do after a major scene, just send the protagonist back to their apartment.
Let me go home.
Though I will say, what I love about the apartment that he has is it is very 2003 Daredevil.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly like it.
It's this giant, weirdly gothic, steel-built apartment just in like the middle of downtown LA. He's got like the remote control that lifts all of the steel plate curtains that he has around his fucking apartment.
He's like pulling chains and shit on gears and fucking shit.
And then he lights a cigarette, and that's all we needed in that place, I guess.
That's it. This movie does make me want. It makes me want to smoke a lot.
It is very true that this is one of those movies where, like, you know how I feel like it was in the late 90s into about 2010, there were, like, parent groups that were, like, protesting the idea of smoking in movies because they're like, it's brainwashing our kids into smoking cigarettes. This movie makes smoking look so fucking cool.
I love the shot. Look, when I was like in art school, I would just do shots of like people smoking cigarettes or draw them that way because it's always cool. My only nitpick is every cigarette, if you notice, he'll smoke it halfway and then put it out. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're wasting a whole cigarette.
He doesn't have time for a whole cigarette. His life is too fucking busy. So he smokes a whole pack, which is technically half a pack, which tells me motherfucker's trying to quit.
Okay. He's trying.
He's trying, but we'll find out. It's a little too late. We are then introduced to our female lead, Angela, played by Rachel Weisz, who is at a Catholic church confessing to a priest that she not only has killed a man, we find out she's actually a police officer, and is confessing to the fact that she believes she has a preternatural ability to not only find these criminals, but know the exact moment to fire her gun in order to murder them.
Weird.
That's the end of that scene. Because we then cut to a hospital. Turns out not just a hospital, but a mental hospital in Los Angeles, in which Angela is one of the people there? No, it's not. It's her identical twin sister, Isabel, who gets out of her room, somehow, in a mental hospital, makes her way to the roof, somehow, in a mental hospital.
Unlocked. Yes.
And then stands at the edge, tears off the little bracelet around her wrist, looks behind her to nobody, and then jumps off the roof backwards, where she falls like 20 stories through a cross-shaped skylight into a pool, which they have in a mental hospital, I guess.
She did.
And she did.
She has that tattoo on her arm also that we all
It does
just
turn
saw.
out that she has that weird branding tattoo of some kind of Celtic cross on her arm that starts dissipating as she's dying. So there must be a reason. But we don't get to find that out just yet because John wakes up in the middle of the night and he's coughing blood into the sink.
Oh, boy.
So I guess what it turns out is that the hospital's not just a hospital. Or not just a mental hospital. It's a hospital that has like a psychiatric wing.
Oh, right.
Because John goes to this hospital and is told that he is dying of lung cancer. And it's aggressive this time, John, which means he had lung cancer before. They apparently helped him beat it. And he kept smoking.
He just kept smoking. See?
And now it's coming for him hardcore. So he's gonna keep smoking because at this point, what the fuck's the point? He's dying. At that same hospital, Angela, as part of the police force, is brought in and finds her sister, because that's not a conflict of interest in any way. You could argue that they would have brought her in to identify the body, but here's the thing. They look exactly the fucking same.
Yeah, I don't think you need much ID.
Can't exactly look at a dead body of one of the people on the force and go, is that her sister? So she has like a whole fucking mental breakdown, demanding to know what happened, saying this is a murder. My sister never would have killed herself. Everyone else is all like, go home, Angie. This is too much for you. And like, what are you even doing here? They shouldn't have let you here. No one should have let you in.
You should never be around your dead sister and be able to mourn this.
And
No,
especially at the scene.
On
They
the
didn't even
job.
like, it wasn't even like they told her by the time that they brought her to the morgue. They had her come in during the moment that they were like cordoning off the area.
She's at the crime scene, yeah.
Though I will admit, the shot that they do when she goes to see the body, where she pulls back the sheet and is like face to face with herself, that's a really cool fucking shot. They did that very well.
I
Especially
was
with,
waiting
like,
for the jump scare there.
Yeah.
especially with the camera like tilting and like zooming in so that they're like on either half of the screen. That was pretty cool looking.
The director in this movie does some interesting things throughout the movie.
He has a great visual eye for things, which makes a lot of sense coming out of music videos.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
his camera
I honestly feel like as we go on, I cannot say the direction of this movie is the problem.
I would agree with that 100%. I was watching this movie looking for all the telltale signs of an awful movie, and it doesn't have all those signs.
No.
You've actually got a very visually interesting movie to watch.
Absolutely. And as time goes on, I'm going to point it out more and more.
Good. Glad I could steal that thunder.
You're absolutely welcome to do so. This is your show. I'm just a guest doing all the work today.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, magician. Pull a rabbit out of a hat.
It's in his pocket. So, mourning the death of her sister, Angela goes wandering back to the elevator, which is full of people, and John Constantine. And as she walks up to get into it, as the doors are closing, she asks if the elevator is going down. John says, "Not if I can help it." And the doors shut, and he doesn't wait for her to get in.
Constantine is not only lit up a cigarette in the doctor's office, he steps into the elevator smoking a cigarette. Did people used to do that?
So here's the thing. I have to, like, I should have gone looking into this, but I want to know, when was the time that they then cut off the fact that you were not allowed to smoke in hospitals
if
anymore?
This is 2005.
I honestly feel like at this point they would have like had the policy of like, you can't fucking smoke
it had to
in
be
a hospital.
Around then.
Especially because he's coming out of a ward where they were doing x-rays and talking about cancer.
Yes.
I'm assuming he's going to be
cancer
around
ward.
people who have really bad immune systems.
But he's just a dick and takes a lit cigarette into an elevator. The balls you got to have to do that. Let me tell you.
I know. This is our protagonist.
Imran doesn't care that he didn't let her in. He's more worried about this lit cigarette.
I was like,
in the
oh,
elevator.
I mean, fuck her. Who cares?
Yeah. There's another elevator. She get the next one.
She. You know what? If anything, it was a blessing because she doesn't have to breathe in that secondhand smoke.
Exactly. He saved her.
So I called that their meet cute.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what it's supposed to be, except him being a dick.
Mm-hmm.
So after we get that whole setup, we then cut back to our friend from Mexico with the spear. He jumps over the border fence in a single bound. And as he's now have left Mexico and is in America, he's walking down a road, and every animal on the side of the road is dying instantly in his presence.
Are these cows? What were these things?
I think they're a moose or something.
I couldn't tell what this was.
I feel like maybe there's supposed to be some form of bison or
right?
something.
It kind of looked like that.
They looked a little slender to be bison, but then again, it was a wide shot.
Yeah.
Whatever
Very, very
they
wide
were
shot.
supposed to be, they're dead now.
And it's really,
they're all gone.
It's kind of dark. I'm like, what the fuck animal is that? Oh, well.
I think that was the problem. Is I'm wondering if they came up with an animal, they put it in there, and then someone was like, that's not in the desert, areas of California, and they were like, all right, just make it fucking blurry. It's whatever you think it was. So John has a visitor at his apartment. I do not learn his name until maybe an hour later in this movie, so I just referred to him as his magic item dealer, who is selling him
Beeman?
things such as. That is Beeman, yes.
Beeman.
And we have this whole entire, Q talking to Bond scene where he's like, oh yeah, I've got this, I've got dragon fire, which is basically like a Chinese finger trap that spits fire out of it. And they have a conversation in which John basically tells him, I think demons are trying to cross over into our realm. And Beeman tells him, well, that's not possible. And he goes, that's right. But I think it's happening. Why don't you go look into, quote, the scrolls and find out? And guess what Beeman doesn't do? Look into the scrolls to find out.
Oh, yeah, he never checks the scrolls.
No, he never looks into anything until John gets in touch with him again an hour later and demands he read the Hell Bible. Anyway, John decides he needs to go get more information, so he goes to a massive church/library in Los Angeles. On the way there, this is like the second of two scenes where he's in the cab with Chaz. And Chaz is basically trying to be like, so why don't you take me out on jobs, John? Huh? You could teach me more. I could be more helpful. I could do more than just driving the car, John. I could be out there and I could be helping you out. And he's just like, no, and leaves. He goes in. They're both trying to bother this priest about learning things. And by they both, I mean it's the fact that we have this one moment where Angela just appears behind him.
Oh, she's
like
there too?
Like a fucking ghost. And she's there to talk to the priest, while John is not technically there to talk to the priest. He's there to talk to Gabriel the Archangel, played by Tilda Swinton, the fucking queen of this movie. Out of all the people they got into this movie, the one person who honestly didn't have to try but fucking blew it away is Tilda Swinton.
I remember watching this the second time. I forgot she was in this. I was like, oh shit, it's Tilda Swinton. It's fucking the Angel Gabriel. That's brilliant.
Can we see her? Is he the only one that can see her angel wings that just flap out in the middle of that scene?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like he only sees these things.
That's part of his ability to see half-breeds that he's had throughout life.
Right. Gotcha.
He's talking to Gabriel and is basically trying to find out, has he done enough in the name of God to barter his way into heaven now that he's dying of cancer? And Gabriel says, that ain't how it works, bud. And he gets pissed and says, well, why is that? And I'm going to say they, because I feel like whenever you cast Tilda Swinton in any role, it's meant to be androgynous.
Yeah, definitely this role.
They tell Constantine that it's because no matter what he has done in, quote, the name of God, he has only done it to gain favor with God and not because he truly believes or wants to do good. So basically, he gets told, fuck you, you're going to hell, and ain't nobody going to do nothing about it. So he gets pissy and says, fuck the rules, or something like that. Calls it all bullshit, and he leaves. Meanwhile, Angela's trying to barter with the priest that's there that they should be giving her sister a Catholic burial. And he's saying, well, no, we can't because we've been told that it was a suicide. And according to Catholic dogma, that's a mortal sin. And so we cannot do rites.
They go straight to hell, right? That's the same in Islam, by the way. Suicide.
And so it's the idea that, yes, killing yourself is a mortal sin. It immediately casts your soul into hell.
Yeah.
She says, that's bullshit. My sister never would have done that. And I'm going to prove it. And she decides the best way to do that is to chase after John Constantine. But we'll get that in a second because we get a quick cutaway of John's drunk big boy priest friend who apparently has psychic abilities and is sitting in a room that has all the windows covered in tinfoil as he is just touching newspapers.
This is a weird scene.
And
very strange.
And the news stories are all just flooding into his head.
Yeah.
And he lands on the one about Isabel, Angela's sister, and her death. This is about the same time. So I think what it was I feel like my timeline here is going to get a little messy because this is a lot of shit happens like in the next 5 minutes of this movie. Angela approaches John outside of the church. They say something to each other. He blows her off. And he goes walking off into the rain where Chaz is like, where you going? I got the car here. Come on, Constantine.
And now she knows his name. Yeah.
So she learns his name.
Yeah.
We then have the priest doing his whole thing where he's finding the news stories. And then we go back to Angela and
Father Hennessy.
Father Hennessy, thank you.
And like he was hearing like the reporters' voices of these headlines. I didn't understand what was going on.
He has the story basically being read in his head by the people who wrote them, I guess.
Well, according to Wikipedia, he has an ability to communicate with the dead, but then wears that charm to keep the voices out. So I don't know what's going on.
Whoa, that's weird. It was weird.
I don't know how the voices of the dead are coming through the newspaper, but whatever.
Thank you, Wikipedia, because the movie sure as shit didn't say that.
It doesn't tell
No.
you, yes.
And I still don't know. It makes me even more confused that he's basically Braille reading the newspapers out loud.
Yeah, like
Well,
Daredevil.
this is why I figured what it was the idea that if he touched the newspaper, like the story was being read to him in his head by the person who wrote it.
Yeah.
Because if it's the dead, that doesn't make sense. Why would the dead just read their own news stories?
And it would alternate between like a male voice and a female voice, right?
Yeah.
It went back and forth, so it was weird.
So, he finds this news story about Isabel's death. We then go back to Angela in her apartment. She's watching the security cam footage, which is basically just the exact same shots of her death from the movie, but in like a grainy blue filter. And at one point, as Angela's falling asleep, Isabel looks at the camera and whispers the name Constantine.
What?
And then Angela, whoa, wakes up. Is like, what did I just hear? And like rewinds, watches it again. Doesn't happen that time. But you know what does happen? All the phones in her apartment start ringing. And I have to ask.
This was weird, too.
Why does a single woman
Have so many
living
phones.
in an apartment have 10 phones with different distinct ringtones?
That's what I was like. First of all, why are there so many phones, and why is this happening? And I don't think, do they explain why this
Now,
is happening?
If you had done like a shot of it starts with her and then like goes out the window to her building and is like going up the building and showing like every phone in the apartment building's ringing, that would have made more sense. But no, we just see her in her apartment and we hear all these different phones, which tells me they are all in her apartment.
Yeah, it was like 10 phones. I was like, why does she have so many phones?
She's got a lot of burner phones,
I
a lot
guess.
of side pieces.
A lot of side piece, yeah.
Although
So
I don't
apparently-
know if you had burner phones back then. I don't know if that was a thing.
No, in
Maybe.
05 they would have.
She had
Yeah,
a cell
I guess you
phone.
would.
We're only 2 years away from the iPhone, so you would have had like prepaid cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Well, apparently, I'm going to assume that she lives right next door to the church they were at because John's still walking around in the rain. And he stopped off at a little
Unusual amount of rain in LA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
rain.
in movie amounts of rain in LA,
Yeah.
where he stops off at a gas and go and picks up like a fifth bottle of just some kind of liquor. And as he's about to drink it, he then gets accosted by a homeless man asking if he has a light because John's in the middle of coughing all of his fucking lungs out on the side of the sidewalk. And as he goes to offer a match, we find out, whoa, it's a demon made of bugs!
It's a swarm person.
And a crab.
Oh, and
It was
a
a
crab, too,
Yeah,
for some reason.
there were bugs, a crab, half of his face was made of a snake. He was wearing a hood of bugs. And so John gets into a fight with a swarm demon. I believe it is, in stuff that I have read online, I believe they refer to this as the, like the Pest King or something like that.
Okay.
Which, why a crab is a part of that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, crabs aren't, I mean, I guess crabs are giant bugs from the ocean.
Yeah, I guess
In
they're
a
like
way.
They're alien
insects
bugs.
of the sea, but crabs aren't necessarily thought of the same way as
We
a
don't,
bug.
when you never say a swarm of crabs, I
Right.
don't think.
Is it a murder?
Don't quote me on that, because someone's going to come back and be like, actually, a group of crabs is called a swarm.
And crabs aren't just as disgusting as bugs are.
I would say we eat crabs, but plenty of people eat cockroaches, so fuck, what do I know, man?
Now,
Yeah,
can
I guess.
anybody else see what's going on, do you think, in this scene?
Now that's one of the things that I really find interesting about this scene is because as we have not even been told yet, but we will learn later on from John, he can see these like demons and half-breeds and everything like that because of this special gift / curse he has that allows him to do that. So that means if only he can see this demon that's attacking him, then that means everybody who is currently on that like very, very busy street in Los Angeles
Nobody's close.
just seems some dude in a black and white suit flailing around
Rolling
in the
around
fucking
on the
street.
ground. A car.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think they can see it because when he kills that demon, you see all the bugs splatter
a
on the
car
dude's
hits
car.
him. Yeah, the
I was
car
going to
hits
say, so the car hits it and you see the bugs all explode across the windshield.
Right.
And then when
The car
he
stops.
sees all the bugs laying around, he starts stomping on them and they blow up in these little CGI green bursts.
Okay, so
Yeah.
everybody could see this and nobody gave a fuck.
So it's one of those things where I guess it's potentially like half-breeds can't be seen, but, like, legitimate demons can. Because, like, at the same time, that dude who saw the one in the mirror instantly went insane.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So that tells me the guy who hit that demon with his car is now batshit insane.
Casualty.
I hit some homeless guy and he blew up into bugs.
No, and then Keanu turns around and goes, "Cans. It was just cans. Don't worry.
It was a crate full of cans.
Cans. Don't worry. Cans."
Is that Point Break reference?
No, that's
No, that's
Speed.
Speed.
Oh, Speed.
When
That's when
she
Sandra
hits the
Bullock-
baby carriage full
Yeah.
of fucking
Oh,
cans.
that's right. Cans.
And she's like freaking out, and he turns around and goes, "Cans." It was
What I
cans.
love most about it is, why did she fill a baby carriage full of cans?
Right.
Oh,
Homeless
God.
people in L.A. back in '94, man.
Yeah, they were a
Filling
different
baby
breed, dude.
carriages with cans.
Anything with wheels, man.
Cans.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
That's exactly what I thought of when the car hits the bugs. I go, "Cans."
So, having just been attacked by a full-blood demon in the middle of downtown Los Angeles, I'm assuming. I don't know where we are in that city during this movie. I assume everywhere is downtown Los Angeles because I don't know that city.
I felt like this movie was just located where Seven was located.
Yeah, the
where it's
same
just
streets.
like, what?
Basically.
Where is this place?
You know, it's the same city that Seven, The Crow,
Oh, yeah.
fucking Dark City, like all that shit all took place in.
Right.
It's the city from The Matrix, basically.
Exactly.
Just metropolitan area. John decides his best bet after he's just been attacked by a full-blood demon in, let's call it broad moonlight. Decides he's going to go to Papa Midnight, who owns a nightclub in Los Angeles that is essentially Switzerland to the battle between heaven and hell.
Neutral.
He gets there. Chaz is pumped. He thinks this is his chance to finally get into this club because it's a big deal and it'll really establish him as like a badass who's a part of this underground world of demons and angels. And he's like, John, can you get me in? And John's like, yeah, you could get in if you can get in. What does that mean, John? John, what do you mean? John, what's that mean? So we have established that Chaz is absolutely the Chris Tucker of this movie.
Yeah, he's just being annoying Shia the whole movie.
Corbin, my man.
Corbin.
So apparently the way to get into this club is that you have like a tarot card or or like ink blot or some shit shown to you, and you have to say what it is, and then if you get it right, you're allowed in.
Yep.
So John says 2 frogs on a log. Turns out that's right. Chaz walks up, says 2 frogs on a log, and it gets blocked. And it turns out that the card was actually a rat in a dress.
A rat in a dress.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this is. It's a funny moment, and it's a throwaway moment. If you had cut this out of the movie, it would not have done
would've been
anything positive or negative to the story.
Chaz does not get it.
Actually, I think the only reason it's there is for later on when John just forces his way into the club.
Yeah.
John makes his way through the club, which is the same club that we have seen in Blade, in The Matrix, in John Wick 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, Anthony, you've been to these places that's all red light everywhere. It's very dark.
It's just the only light that exists is a strobe light.
It's just strobe light and red. No other lights.
Fun spots.
Yeah,
let me
it looks like a cool place. I'd go there.
So he makes his way through where he sees, all kinds of half-breed demons and angels hanging out, even ones who are totally getting it on with each other. And he makes his way to the back to go see Papa Midnight. Papa Midnight is, I guess, a voodoo priest. We kind of allude to that. Who is 100% neutral in this battle.
One would say he's a witch doctor.
Oh, does he call him a witch doctor at one point?
No, I'm looking at Wikipedia.
Oh, okay.
This is Jimon Hansu.
I do know that there is a point in it's either this scene or the next scene where John makes a whole comment about like you and 20 other witch doctors standing against the powers of hell, and then I saved you, or whatever the fuck it was. But he basically goes there to tell Papa Midnight, hey, guess what? A legitimate demon just attacked me. I know it's not supposed to happen. That's not ever going to happen, but guess what? It did. And he says, I need to use the chair. And Papa Midnight says, no. And that's it. Scene over.
Well, no, doesn't he talk shit to Balthazar for a little bit? He gets all pissy
yes,
at
this
it.
is where we establish Balthazar, who is played by Gavin Rosdale, and he talks shit to John even more, because then John starts coughing up a whole bunch. He says, "What was that, John? I couldn't quite make that out."
Fucking Bush, Gavin Rossdale. It's amazing.
He's actually good in this.
He's
not bad.
He does a good
wasn't
job.
bad. Yeah, it was just, I did not expect.
I'm not gonna say the man deserves an Oscar for his round as Balthazar, the half demon in Constantine, but like he proved he knows what he's doing enough to like be a part of this B movie. The aesthetic of the club scene, as well as Papa Midnight talking about like, oh, you know, I have rules in my club. You're not allowed to like fight each other or whatever. I was like, did John Wick steal a shit ton of its world building from
boy.
Constantine?
Yeah, it's very proto John Wick at times. Keanu in this.
We got back to John's apartment, where we have what is actually surprisingly a fairly poignant scene. John is drinking a Scotch whiskey and smoking a cigarette, because what scene in this movie is he not?
Mm-hmm.
And sees a spider crawl up onto the coffee table, at which point he traps it under the whiskey glass, and then he blows cigarette smoke into it and keeps it there and comments, "Welcome to my life."
He's trying to give the spider lung cancer. Is that what's happening?
So I think to put on my film nerd hat for a moment, this spider being in John's life is trapped in a whiskey glass full of smoke that it cannot escape and will most likely die in.
It's metaphorical.
Yes.
I see.
And that's then played even more on the fact that later in this scene, as we will see, Angela comes to visit him and is asking for his help in investigating his sister's suicide, but most likely murder, which John is just giving her a bunch of shit and rebuking her for. She takes the glass off the spider and lets it escape.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who's going to save him from this hell of cigarette smoke and whiskey glasses.
Oh, I like that.
So you guys didn't think I'd find a fucking movie that actually has metaphorical storytelling in it in this series, and neither did I.
It's some deep shit in here.
Anyway, so she shows up and tells him the whole story about her sister. She claimed she could see shit. They put her in a mental hospital. She jumped off the roof. Everyone thinks it's suicide, but I don't think that's true because she was Catholic. John gives her comments like, "Mental patient killing herself? I don't think... mental patient killing herself? Well, that would be crazy." Ultimately, basically tells her fucking kick bricks, lady, and she winds up leaving. The other thing I like about this scene is when he lets her in, there's another moment of visual world building where we see that he has runes carved into the door jamb of his apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As a protection.
So, again, in a lesser movie, she would have seen them and been like, "What are those?" And then he would have had to explain it.
Right.
This movie says, "Fuck you. If you don't get it, you're not paying attention anyway." So, she leaves. But as she leaves, John suddenly notices the shadows of probably demons flying by his window. But they're not coming at him, which means they're after someone else. And he runs out the door. He then catches up with Angela, starts trying to explain to her the world he lives in about angels and demons and the war between them and how basically humans are just puppets and playthings for them to all fuck around with. And, they can't directly interfere with us, but they can try and manipulate us and so on and so forth. And she just kind of says, you have a reputation of being a nut job at the precinct. And then all the lights in the street go out. And she asks, "What's going on?" And he says, "Oh, you're going to want to close your eyes." Or something like that, I think. Even though, like, if she had closed her eyes, then she never would have noticed that he's telling the truth. And he takes a piece of cloth out of his jacket, wraps it around his arm, and then he lights it on fire, and as it burns, it destroys a shit ton of demons that are swarming in on them at once. We would later find out, not in the movie, but online, based on stuff the director said, that piece of cloth was supposed to be the Shroud of Moses.
I read that. Yeah, I did read about that.
Well, I'm more curious, what street in Los Angeles is that empty?
It's the middle of the night.
No matter what time at night, correct.
Yeah.
I will say, though, despite how much it's very obviously just a line for the trailer of the movie, I do kind of like the exchange where he's talking about everything, and she responds with, "I don't believe in the devil." And he goes, "Oh, that's a shame. He believes in you."
Yeah, it's a good line.
Yeah,
and like
it's a good line.
the reveal is cool when he lights the thing and you see all the demons.
I love that visual.
That shit-
That is
that looks-
such a cool fucking
It
visual.
look fucking cool, and the lights coming out, and they're just all getting exploded. It's great.
We cut back to her apartment where she has a cat.
You forgot the one that she vomits, and he goes, "That always happens the first time."
Oh, yeah.
It's the
That's
sulfur.
a good point. Yes, I love the idea that every time a human sees a demon for the first time, they vomit, except
Yeah.
for that one guy who was driven insane. I guess he was just he wasn't made of as tough of stuff as Angela.
The rules kind of change a little bit.
they
I was like,
fluctuate.
he wants her to close her eyes so she doesn't have her hair turn white, and she just vomits.
Yeah, she just vomits.
Oh, okay.
So back at her apartment with the cat that used to be Isabel's, which, by the way, who was taking care of that cat while
yeah.
Isabel was in the mental hospital? They talk a little bit more, and he's explaining that the best thing that he can do in order to try and find out, was her sister possessed or did she kill herself, is he has to essentially do this ritual that will let him peer into hell and find out. This ritual involves him sitting on a chair with his feet submerged in a pot of water and holding onto a cat and staring into its eyes, because he explains cats are half in and half out of the afterlife anyway.
That's kind of a great line, also.
Which I do like,
Yes.
because that means we're now tying this into Egyptian mythology.
Yeah.
She sits down, crisscross applesauce, ready to see the magician at work, and he tells her, "Get out of the apartment."
You have to leave.
Which is immediately a moment where I was like, okay, so this feels like we're getting a little bit of that weird, like, shyster con man, like, Constantine shit, where it's like, no, you can't be in the room while I do it, though. Oh, okay. So she begrudgingly agrees to leave the apartment, gets up, walks out, and as she's closing the door, time slows down as John's doing this ritual. And he finds himself in hell! And hell looks fucking cool.
Yeah, what does hell look like here?
So hell is designed in this way, described by the director, Francis Lawrence?
Francis Lawrence.
What's his full name?
Yeah.
The way he described the way they designed hell is they designed hell to look in a way where it is essentially our world. So John finds himself on one of the major highways in Los Angeles. But hell is perpetually caught in that sort of moment of shockwave blast from a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
So things are all burned, singeing. There's constantly this whipping wind moving everything around. And there's also this sort of biological growth, almost like the Upside Down from
Yes.
Stranger Things.
Yes, I thought of the
That's
upside down. Yeah.
That's like covering over
Because
everything.
he's still in the apartment, right? You're like in the same
Well, no, it's
location
weird.
where you are, but it's...
What I think is weird is that he starts in the apartment, but when he comes to in hell, like he's sitting in the apartment, but then he like climbs upwards onto
Oh.
an overpass.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if that means her apartment is under an overpass in Los Angeles, I guess. I'll take that to be true, because we don't know the geography of this place fucking ever.
It is a cool looking hell. Like, it's crazy looking.
And so as he is making his way through this hell, he is becoming noticed by more and more demons that all sniff him out, because underneath that overpass is just this writhing mass of demons, like, torturing people.
Plus, he probably sent a lot of them there, right? That's what I thought.
Oh, they know about him.
Yeah, they're like,
That's
oh,
one of the
shit,
things.
it's him.
That was one of the things he had made a comment about. Is like, you know, why would you want to go to a prison where most of the people like locked up there were sent there by you?
Yeah.
And he knew like a cop would get that understanding.
Yeah.
And so as he's walking down this this overpass or this like mega highway, he comes across Isabel just like standing at the end of it as it's broken off. So I guess she's not damned to be stuck on top of the building that she died on. She's just here. She does the exact same bit where she is standing there and then turns around and looks directly at the camera like she did earlier. So I guess we're supposed to believe that as she was dying, she was viewing this moment in hell. I guess.
She was there.
That's why when she turns around and sees him, she calls him out as Constantine by name. And then she jumps. But she ripped off her wristband like she did in real life, and it's floating around in the air, so John decides that's the proof I can grab to prove that Isabel is in hell. So he runs to go grab it, and at this moment, all the demons are jumping out to go get him, and he's leaping, and it's slow motion, and he gets it in his hand, and then he smashes a marble full of holy water, I guess, on himself, or whatever it is, and he's instantly back in the real world. And it's only been a split second in the real world time, because before Angela could close the door fully, it blows back open, and he's sitting in the chair, and he's steaming like he himself just came out of like a hot house into a cold winter day.
Again, kind of a cool scene visually.
Oh, it's an awesome
the fucking
visual.
jump and the grab and the demons on him. I was like, oh shit!
The shot when she walks back into the apartment and it's the entire floor is covered in water. He is doubled over in the chair and he's just steaming.
Yeah,
is so cool looking.
Yeah.
It turns out her sister's in hell. She killed herself. Case closed.
Roll credits. No,
She's
wait.
damned forever and the movie.
Can't do nothing to help you.
Except the fact that our friend, Father Hennessy, having found her news story about her suicide, has snuck his way into the morgue that is holding her body. And so he creepily makes his way into the freezer where they keep the bodies, and he's looking around and trying to find them until he finds her.
And he fucks her.
And he slowly undoes his shirt. No. What he does is he grabs her arm to try and, I guess, learn more about her death through psychometry, which is a thing that I learned about in Dungeons & Dragons.
Oh.
Which, if it's the same thing as Dungeons & Dragons, means that by touching an object, or in this case, a dead body, you essentially learn something about its past psychically.
Okay.
I'm guessing this means he's trying to learn about her death and what caused it and why it's calling out to him. We don't really learn anything psychically, but what he does see is that scar tattoo thing that was on her wrist earlier comes back. And he panics. And as he's running out, a security guard shows up and goes, "Wait, who are you? Hey, slow down!" As he just bowls over this guy and runs out of the morgue. He starts hearing all these voices in his head now, and he's not wearing his safety amulet. And he decides, because he explained to John earlier that the reason he's an alcoholic is because the drink makes the voices go away, he runs into a liquor store and decides he needs to drink right now because his flask is empty. And so he grabs a bottle of vodka, and he opens it, and he goes to drink it, and it's pouring out of the bottle, but there's nothing coming out of the bottle.
Very weird.
And so now he grabs another bottle, same thing. He grabs a wine bottle, the same thing. He starts breaking bottles open and trying to drink them, and it's not happening. And oh my God, what's happening to him? He's freaking out. But now he starts coughing up liquor, and he's drowning in it. And so he runs over to the counter, and he grabs a corkscrew and starts stabbing himself in the hand as he drowns in alcohol. And we find out that Balthazar was there the whole time.
I knew it was Gavin Rossdale. Stupid Bush.
I knew you ruined Woodstock 99.
Where's your machine man now, Gavin? Machine head. Oh,
so at this point, while this is happening, this is when John starts to explain to Angela about his ability and how, I could see what I call half-breeds. And that's where we get that moment where it shows Gavin Rossdale with his red eyes, and we see that apparently the clerk at the liquor store is an angel.
Yeah, he was an angel.
That was such a random throw-in, too.
And it's like, I like the visual of him leaning over the dying priest and his wings, like, flying out.
Yeah.
But it's also like,
what?
You couldn't have done more
Trying to do something.
than just, like, watching him die and being like, by the way, I'm an angel.
So are we supposed to believe Balthazar cursed him in that moment? And
It's the most I can pull from that, because Balthazar had something to do with Isabel's death, and that whether it was him looking into Isabel or maybe Balthazar off in the shadows, like whispering at him, he was the one who led to the priest not recognizing that he was drowning himself in alcohol.
It's a disturbing scene.
That was a weird, also a very odd scene in a good way, but I was also a little bit confused.
Yeah, the actual, what was happening in the moment is like, oh, this is like very unsettling. But then when it's like trying to explain how it happened, you're like, nah, I don't get it.
I don't get it at all. Yeah. What exactly is Balthazar's power again? How is he able to do that?
So as he's explaining, is he claims that, these half-breeds, whether they're angels or demons, the only thing they can do is they can essentially manipulate humans into behaving in certain ways. So, like, they whisper in their ear, and that's the push they need to be ultimately good or ultimately evil in their lives.
So he said to him, "You're never going to taste alcohol."
No, so I think...
who knows?
No, I think what happened is we saw the alcohol, what he saw. The alcohol wasn't coming out. But I think in reality, he was drinking that alcohol. He just didn't know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's
So
what
how
was
does he-
confusing.
That's clear.
That is what's going on.
Okay.
What Anthony and I are talking about is, what did Balthazar do to make that happen to him?
When did he do that to him? Yeah, I don't.
Exactly.
Yep.
He also then explains that he has the ability to see them. He's had this ability since he was a child, and as a teenager, he decided to commit suicide because of it, and he technically died for 2 minutes and was in hell. And then he was resuscitated. And because he committed suicide, went to hell, and came back, that means his soul, in Catholic dogma, is forever tainted and considered to be destined to go to hell when he dies. And this is why he's been trying to kill demons and send them back and getting God's good books, is maybe when I die I can actually go to heaven. And apparently he was wrong. Then they get the call. They go to the liquor store because the priest is there. I guess Angela gets the call because I guess she's on the homicide squad. But she brings John along, and John discovers that he has stabbed that, like, Celtic cross tattoo design into his hand. And that was, like, a message to him. I think it's also funny is that John sees his dead body, and he just goes, "Why didn't you call?" Well, because you fucking treat all your friends like shit, John.
We're also supposed to like feel bad that his friend died, but it's like, but you just portrayed this guy as one of the weirdest motherfuckers
Like,
on
he
screen.
is so off-putting.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to feel so bad about this guy dying, but he's so creepy.
Yeah.
Also, the cops just let some random dude on the crime scene and fuck with all the evidence.
Well, it's not even just some random dude. They know who the fuck he
Oh,
is.
they know
the,
who he
cop,
is.
the cop on the scene is like, what is he doing here?
Yeah, he has that look like, what, this fucking asshole?
And they
Get him
just-
out
and
of here.
these little-
As in, like, he's skulked around scenes before and they had to chase him off.
he's tainting the crime scene with his ice and his everything he was doing.
The fact that he takes a napkin and presses it on the guy's palm to, like, get the design from the blood, like, well, great, now your fingerprints are on the fucking body, dude.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What I find interesting is like they get that palm print, and the first thing that they do is they then go to a scene where they're back in like Izzy's hospital room, and they are looking to see, did she leave any kind of a clue that only Angela would find. And like it gets to a point where John is straight up abusing a woman who is grieving the death of her twin sister.
Oh, yeah, he's just yelling
Oh,
at her.
that's right.
It's just like, she knew you'd come. She knows you're a cop.
What did she
What's
know?
the thing she would have left that only a cop would have found, that only you would have found? She's like, I don't know. He's like, yes, you do.
Being a big dick.
Just like fucking yelling at her. And what I find funny is that works.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because like she then like starts crying and then immediately looks at the window. Is like, we used to leave messages that you could only see through light and breath. Which is what is that? How do you describe that? Maybe just say, we used to write on windows and you could only see it by fogging the window up.
Also very questionable that message would have stayed on that window for much longer
You're
than
telling me a
that
hospital
evening.
crew didn't come in here and fucking
Nobody's
clean this
cleaned that
room?
window.
Right, after a dead woman, was this in there?
So they find it, and apparently what she calls out is a passage in the Bible. I didn't write down which one.
It's Corinthians 17, but that doesn't exist.
So
Right.
they're in the car, and now we're in that moment of Law and Order where they have to call the expert because she's like, well, Corinthians doesn't go to 17. And John goes, in the Bible in hell it does.
Oh,
Oh, there's a Bible in hell? Yes. There, good. Explanation done.
Hell Bible, of course.
So they call up, fuck, you knew his name and I don't.
Beeman?
Beeman.
Yeah.
They call up Beeman and they tell him he needs to look into the Bible from hell and tell him what Corinthians 17 is about. And this is where we finally find out the plot of the movie.
Jeez. Halfway through the fucking movie.
I mean, we've already been following a plot, but we find out like what's it all about.
Yeah.
In the Bible from hell in Corinthians 17, it talks about how Memnon, the son of Satan, will push his way to invade Earth and like take it over and put it in his own form, but it requires divine help in doing so.
Ooh.
And so John's like, "Whoa, God has to help him do it," and like doesn't understand what's happening. And so that's the end of that scene. They hang up, and Beeman gets murdered by the bug demon.
Is this Balthazar doing again?
I don't know if Balthazar did it, but I'm guessing he probably sicked the bug demon on him. Because, like, by the time we get to the end of Balthazar's story, he's kind of playing like he was the orchestrator of everything.
Oh, yeah, he's taking orders, though, right?
Yeah.
That was another creepy scene, though, with the bug crawling out the guy's eye.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was and then out of his mouth and shit. Yeah.
But before we ever even find out about Beeman being fully dead, we go back to the spear guy.
Manuel.
He's back, and better than ever, because he stole a car.
What's Manuel doing?
All right, back to Los Angeles.
That's it.
Well, that spear is the, what is that, the whatever they fucking
Spear
call
of
it.
Destiny.
The Spear of Destiny.
Spear of Destiny, where it has the blood of Christ.
It was
on
the weapon that had murdered Christ during his
tip of the
crucifixion.
spear.
Yes. And that's what you need. You need that to get Mamoon back, or Mamoon, whatever.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if they ever got into that moment yet, but I know at some point he winds up explaining that whole thing to Angela. I don't remember at what point, because they have at least 2 or 3 scenes where he just fucking spouts exposition about like what's going on at her. So he tries to send Angela away and is all like, "This is too much. It's too dangerous. You can't be here anymore." And she's all like, "No, John, I want to be a part of it." And it actually has like a nice little bit of framing where like as they're talking, she's behind a door that has like green glass in it. So you can't really see her, and he's like completely exposed in the open door. And as she's saying like, "No, I want to help. I want to know more," she like walks into frame with him. So it's like she's coming out of being, ignorant and now wants to be in the light of understanding what's happening. So they decide what they need to do is they need to reawaken her sight, because it turns out that she and her sister both had the ability to see things when they were children. But Izzy was considered crazy, and Angela just lied and said she didn't see anything until finally it just went away. But now she needs that because it's a weapon that they can use against evil. And now we get the famous and maybe infamous bathtub scene from this movie.
It's a fucked up scene, too.
Where they fill the tub with water, they have Angela get into it, and John basically has to forcefully drown her in a bathtub until she nearly dies and then regains the ability to see over into the afterlife. And it's just this unsettling scene of a woman suddenly realizing that a man she maybe doesn't know at all and trusted a little too much is definitely trying to kill her.
It goes on, and you see it in her face, and it is. He's like, "You have to be fully submerged." And I'm like, "You're just going to let him hold you down?"
And like she starts thrashing around and trying to fight him, and he's holding her down. And this is, I think, one of the 5 scenes in this movie coming up in which just somebody in a white shirt gets fucking soaked.
Everybody in white shirts gets wet.
It's like, no, we don't have nudity in our movie, but like there's a shit ton of wet t-shirt scenes.
Yeah, it's great wet t-shirt stuff.
So the bathtub explodes, they spill out across the fucking floor, and she wound up seeing a vision of Beeman being killed by the demon. So now they need to run off to Beeman's place, which apparently is pretty close, because when they arrive at the bowling alley that he takes refuge in, they're both still soaked. Turns out Beeman's dead, and her newfound sight leads her to finding the coin that Balthazar was playing around with when he was at Papa Midnight's. So John knows it's Balthazar. And he decides, all right, it's time to get serious. I'm going to build a gun that looks like a cross made out of fucking gold.
It's badass. Right, and Beeman has all this shit right there. So
like, he just has all this shit hanging around. So John's like, I'm just going to do this. So, like, what do you need him for? I mean, I guess he's your supply guy, but, like, you just did this on a whim, dude. He decides he's going to go to whatever the fucking weird corporate entity is that I guess Balthazar's the head of, because we're playing on the idea that a demon runs a mega corporation, because that makes sense.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And they get there, and they're in the parking garage, and we have that moment where it seems like they're about to kiss. But actually, John's giving her the medallion from the priest, Father Hennessy, that's supposed to, like, protect her from evil. I didn't look up what the design of, like, that pendant is, but it almost looks like it's supposed to be, like, Norse or pagan in design.
Yeah.
So that's good enough for me. John goes in, And Balthazar is in this big-ass boardroom where he's, like, checking his hair in the mirror. And then the mirror starts bubbling and melting. And then he gets hit because the barrel of that shotgun is dragon's breath! And Balthazar makes a whole comment about, like, really, John? Fire? I was born in this stuff.
Molded by it.
Exactly.
You were born in the darkness.
You merely adopted the fire. So John's like, okay, great. And he throws a bunch of fucking like holy water grenades at him and just starts melting his face. And
another pretty decent visual.
Yeah,
with the guy's
it
face
looks pretty
melting.
good.
Yeah.
And then he puts on these golden brass knuckles that have crosses on the knuckles.
That's great.
And just starts fucking punching him in the face.
Well, what's great about that is his face is burning up, right? And Balthazar's holding him by one hand, like by the neck, up against the wall. And he just lets Constantine just throw on these brass knucks without even like using his other arm to stop him. He's just like, yeah, put those on. I know you're going to put those on, and I know you're going to punch me in the face.
He's just watching him do it.
I love the idea of going for, like, the realistic fight in this movie where he's, like, struggling to put on the brass knuckles and like, Balthazar's, like, hitting him with one hand, like, no, stop it, no. So he starts punching the crap out of him with these brass knuckles, starts demanding to know, you know, what's Mamon's plan? How's he supposed to cross over? You're going to tell me. Meanwhile, Angela, who's sitting down in the garage, is like, I'm not just going to sit around and wait. So she takes off her jacket because we can't not have Rachel Weisz in a fucking tank top throughout this movie. And that jacket, I guess she somehow accidentally took off the fucking medallion while doing that.
How does that even... The medallion, he put it around her neck.
He puts it around her neck.
When you take off a jacket, that will not dislodge something completely over your head.
It somehow unhooks the medallion.
I was like, how that
gets stuck on the jacket. Like, she doesn't feel it come off and just throws her jacket in the car.
Oh, whatever.
So Constantine then threatens that if Balthazar isn't going to tell him how Mammon plans on crossing over, he's just going to give him his last rites to send him to heaven as he dies. And he's like, oh, demon in heaven? Like to see how that goes. So he starts just chanting in Latin, and Balthazar starts panicking and finally decides to give up, like, the whole thing about, like, oh, you know, he found the spear of destiny or whatever, and my whole job was I was supposed to draw out the psychic, and then Angela shows up, and he's like, oh, and it looks like you did my job for me, and John Constantine, who's a fucking idiot throughout this movie, is like, huh? But he then does at least give away the whole gag about, like, oh, the only way that you could be sent to heaven is you have to ask for repentance, idiot. And then, like, blows up his head.
So I didn't understand this threat. First of all, he doesn't do it in Latin. All the other spells are in Latin. He's doing this in English. He's, like, reading the Bible in English.
Oh, you're right. I'm mixing this up with when he later in the movie. The thing that I find funny is that the majority of the Latin he speaks in this movie is just him saying in nomine Patri, de Filii, and the Spiritus Sancti.
That's all he's saying.
Which is just him saying in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit over and over again. And apparently that's enough to combat the greatest evils.
Yeah, I didn't get what the threat he was trying with over Balthazar.
So the threat in the fact that I grew up in Catholic church is the idea that those who are in the Catholic and Christian faith, when they are on their deathbed, can ask for their last rites, in which they essentially are repenting for every sin that they've ever had. A priest is blessing them and saying that in the name of the Father, you have been forgiven of all of your sins and will be welcomed into heaven upon your death. He is threatening the idea that if I forgive you of all of your sins, when I kill you, you're going to go to heaven, where you as a demon, a creature of hell, will be trapped in a world that is entirely the opposite of yours, and that is the greatest torture I can ever think of.
So heaven is hell for demons.
Oh, it's opposite. Got it.
You don't want to go to hell. A demon would never want to go to heaven.
And he's like, oh, you got to ask for repentance, asshole. Yes. Like, it doesn't work like that. Got it. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But that was just a threat, right? He actually didn't have the power to do that.
He could not do it. What he was saying was, unless you ask me for forgiveness in order to enter heaven, I cannot forgive you of your sins and have you sent to heaven.
Balthazar obviously is not a practicing Catholic, so he wouldn't know that. Okay. He just thought took the threat at face value and was like, fucking hell, I'm going to heaven.
And then I think he's the one, like, does does Balthazar's head just, like, dissolve at that point or something? I don't really remember the final
John
blow.
blows him up, yeah.
Oh, he blows him up. All right.
No, then somebody shows up.
Well, no, because what it was is then he starts making threats about, like, oh, well, you know, my job was to draw her out, and you did it for me. And then, I think John shoots him with the shotgun, and his fucking head blows up.
Yep.
But then somebody approaches Balthazar. We don't see who this body is, and he's like, I did what you asked. Put me back together.
And then he doesn't, and he just lets him blow away in the wind.
Who the fuck was that guy?
That was clearly Maman, who was possessing the body of Manuel.
Yeah.
Oh, Manuel.
Come on, man. Don't forget about Manuel.
I forgot about Manuel.
Forget about Manuel.
Manuel's been driving.
So I know. He's so far.
He's been traveling for 3 days, man. Angela is then grabbed by a demon that we don't actually see and dragged through like 75 walls in this building until she's pulled out of it.
That's a crazy
John
scene.
tries chasing after, doesn't catch up, and then we have a really cool shot of him running up to the hole in the wall as the camera goes pulling back as if it's the demon flying away. Again, the visuals in this movie are fucking dope.
That was pretty great. And then she just goes flying out the window off into wherever.
Yeah.
It's like the scene in Ghostbusters 2 when whatever the fuck that demon is takes the
Vigo.
baby. Vigo takes the baby through the window and pulls
when they
him
all
out.
go running up.
Yep.
so
Similar
this
yet
is
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close, but not exactly. All right, so John's in a bad place now. It turns out Angela forgot about the medallion she was given literally 20 minutes ago. Gets grabbed by a demon, gets flown away. So John decides there's only one thing I can do. Goes back to Papa Midnight, and he punches out the bouncer. And Chaz fucking rubs it in that guy's face. And they go in, and he starts yelling at Papa Midnight, making threats. Papa Midnight shoves his hands all the way into John's chest.
It's weird.
And basically tells him, fuck you, you don't do what you tell me. And then he talks him down and basically says, like, Maman's coming through, the demons are breaking the code, why the hell would you hold neutrality if they won't? And Midnight's like, all right, you make a point. So he tells him, I need to use the chair. And they do. The chair is literally just an electric chair. But I guess it has something to do with all of the various murderous souls that were executed in it. It haunts it now or something.
200 souls pass through that chair.
They set it up. He has to point it to the east. They pour water all over the floor. John takes his shoes off. And while he's in the chair, Papa Midnight uses a floor lamp that he breaks the light of, so it's just the filament, which I don't know if that's how that works ever. And he electrocutes him with it. And this allows John to essentially just have a vision of what might happen in the future, and it points him in the direction of the hospital.
So you gotta die to activate these things and see hell and shit. That's what I'm getting at.
Essentially what it is that in order to see this shit, you have to be, like, just on that veil of alive and dead. Yeah. Which, honestly, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I get it. No questions here. Moving on. We then get to see that apparently Angela was thrown off the roof that her sister jumped off of and lands in the same pool. But because there was no skylight, I guess this doesn't fucking hurt her at all.
Also, how long was she flying through the air? This whole time they do a whole scene, they cut away, and then she's still flying, and then she lands finally.
I don't know, maybe they were circling around for a bit. But she lands in the fucking pool. Now we're right back into wet t-shirt territory. But there's somebody else in that pool, and it's Manuel! And so they struggle and they fight, and she tries to get away, and then she gets pulled back into the pool, and that's the end of that scene, so she's in danger. They then decide that they need to try and find a way that they can enter this hospital, what they can do to try and defeat the numerous half-breeds that are going to be guarding her, because obviously they're going to be guarding her. That's just how it goes. We all read the script. Chaz comes up with an idea about, like, melting down gold crosses or some shit. So they're melting, I guess, holy gold down into being shotgun shells that he's making.
Yeah, he's making some bullets.
And he also makes a comment about some type of a certain cross. I don't remember what it was. This is the third act at this point. I'm not catching details. But he's like, oh, yeah, that could really help. And Papa Midnight says, yeah, he actually has one of those. So John agrees he's finally going to take Chaz with him on a job because Papa Midnight tells him, like, go on, give him a chance. And so Chaz is, oh, he's fucking stoked, man. He's going on a job. So Chaz then, like, Papa Midnight, like, says a prayer over Chaz and tells him, like, if you come back from this, you talk to me and I'll talk about giving you entry. He goes, all right, I'll come back. Oh, boy. And then he goes to pray over John, and John basically's like, fuck your shit. They walk off. So we now get to the third act, as we're going to do the assault on the hospital. And the plan for the assault on the hospital is super fucking basic. They get in, and the place is abandoned except apparently only one room. So John sends Chaz off to the boiler room where he opens up the water main that feeds all of the sprinkler systems. And he somehow just happens to force this cross that is definitely too big to go through the opening into this water main.
Yeah.
John then goes walking into the waiting room of the hospital where it is filled with, like, fucking 30 demons, including Michelle Moynihan. And it does this whole entire speech about, like, if you all want to live, you're going to leave right now. And they're all like, ha, 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 you're an idiot, John Constantine. You're outnumbered. And he goes, okay. And he jumps on a chair and he lights his lighter over the sprinklers and they start sprinkling. And it turns out that cross turned all this water into holy water.
Holy water.
And the third act of John Constantine's movie is the opening scene from fucking Blade.
It's Blade? And tell me this isn't like John Wick, too. He's just mowing down these motherfuckers with this gun.
So now all these guys are getting covered in holy water, which is breaking through their physical bodies, which Chaz says is what you need to do in order to destroy the demon inside of it. And John's just shotgunning these motherfuckers to death and punching people with those brass knuckles and etc.
And it's raining inside. Still more rain, even though they're inside.
And so he wins. They're all dead. He goes into the pool room where he finds Angela floating in the pool, as well as the dead body of Manuel, the character that we have cut back to time and time again.
He's just dead.
Threatening that he is this massive, big, bad character.
Yeah.
It's just a corpse the moment John Constantine finds him.
Manuel, what happened? You had so much promise.
Oh, I forgot to mention that when he goes to attack Angela, she did draw her gun on him and fired like 75 bullets that all went through him into the wall and didn't hurt him. So they pull Angela out of the water, and John's trying to help her out, and Chaz shows up, and it turns out that she's possessed by Maman. And so now they're trying to perform an exorcism, and it's the two of them together, and John's doing all the work, and it's not really working out, so then Chaz chimes in, and now they're both saying Latin, Our Fathers, and it seems like it's working, and everything's going well, and oh my god, we're doing it, we're holding him back, and then Chaz gets a little bit too cocky. And he decides to throw out, you know why this is working? Because it's Kramer. Chaz Kramer, asshole. And then he gets thrown into the air, and he is ping-ponged back and forth between the ceiling and the floor. Like 4 times. Until he is fucking dead.
Chaz just wanted to be part of the group, man.
He wanted to play, baby, but he wasn't ready.
Good fucking riddance to Shia LaBeouf.
He was a fourth string player out there with the goddamn opening lineup.
He read all the books. He was well learned, a scholar.
It's like he was in a completely different movie than everyone else.
He was, yeah.
Well, you know what, Imran? It's not like the books, is it?
It's not like the books at all, John.
Oh no, it's not like the books.
Turns out it's not like the books, y'all.
I always thought Constantine was a surfer dude with dark brown hair. Dark black hair.
No, that's it's a line from the movie, Anthony. When Chaz is dying, he looks at me and goes, "You're right, it's not like the books," because he read all the books about how to be a demon slayer.
But the movie itself is not like the books.
Also not like
Maybe
the comic books.
Yeah, it's not like the comic books.
Anyway,
we'll talk
we then
about that
discover
later.
that the one who murdered Chaz was Gabriel.
This big twist.
Done.
It turns out Gabriel has been working with Maman, and that is the divine help that he will require in order to pass over into the human world. Constantine wants to know why the hell Gabriel is doing this, and Gabriel makes this whole entire speech about how humans suck. You guys don't deserve to go to heaven. You don't deserve to be loved because you don't do shit and you're not cool. Like, you guys don't even have fucking wings or, like, look good in, like, skin-tight white leather outfits. So, like, I'm going to go ahead and bring hell on earth so that you all have to struggle to survive, and then you'll earn your way into heaven once you're dead.
Jeez,
and John's response is, "You're fucking crazy."
You're insane, Gabriel. What a take on Gabriel, though.
Kind of
Amazing.
I know.
kind of a weird cockamamie plan to make people earn their way into heaven, but all right.
Yeah.
It's almost
little
like
convoluted.
it doesn't make sense. So John then gets thrown across the room back into the fucking waiting room, and Gabriel like locks the door behind him with angel magic, and then is getting ready to go ahead and cut open Angela's stomach so she can birth the son of the devil. But John decides he's got one last play he can make, and he picks up a big old shard of glass, and he slits his fucking wrists to kill himself again. Earlier in the movie, when John first meets with Papa Midnight makes a comment about John Constantine, the only soul on earth that Lucifer himself would come to collect. And it turns out that's not hyperbole, because fucking Lucifer himself appears to collect John Constantine.
Well, I love the little moment right before he cuts his wrist. He's talking to God first, right? He's like, look, I know we don't get along.
He's begging God for help and sees that it's not going to come.
Yeah.
And so he just says, fuck it. And slits his wrists, and time stops as Lucifer descends from the heavens in this off-white linen suit
It's
with
amazing.
his feet dripping in tar in what is the coolest fucking depiction of the devil I have ever seen.
I mean, Peter Stormare in a white linen suit as the devil is pretty fucking, that's brilliant.
And so he walks over and he's talking with Constantine and says, it looks like, you finally fucked up enough that I'm here and I'm going to take you away. And John's asking him about, how's hell? How's the family? How's that son of yours? By the way, he's in the other room with Gabriel, and they're planning on trying to take over the world. And he's like, I don't have time for your tricks, John. He's like, well, why don't you go check it out? You've been waiting 30 years for my soul. What's another 20 seconds? So Lucifer decides, okay, I'll call your bluff. Walks over into the other room and discovers, fuck, Constantine's telling the truth. And he puts an end to it. Just, boom, time goes back. He moves the girl out of the way. He stops Gabriel, burns Gabriel's wings off and throws her into the pool, banishes his son back to hell, and then goes back over and decides, okay, you're welcome, John. The world's safe. They're taken care of, but now I'm taking your soul with me like I planned. And as he's going to drag John to hell, he can't. Because it turns out, by killing himself in order to trick the devil into saving the world, John has sacrificed his life for another and done good for once in his life. And he's now on his way to heaven.
On his way to heaven while giving Lucifer the middle
Giving
finger.
Lucifer the finger, which I would say out of any
It's
time, I
amazing.
feel like God's going to give you a pass for being crude if you're giving the devil the finger.
I also love how he just calls him Lou. He's like, hey, Lou.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's one of my favorites. But Lucifer decides he's not going to be tricked that easily. And he grabs John and pulls him back down to earth. And he says, no, you're mine. And he pulls the cancer out of John's lungs. And I guess also heals his self-inflicted wounds. It tells him, you're going to live, Constantine, because I know that if you live long enough, you'll fuck up again, and then I get to claim you.
Okay.
And Lucifer's gone. And boom, time starts again. Now John's alive and doesn't have cancer.
Great. Everything worked out.
And he goes running over and he checks on Angela, and it turns out, Angela, she's alive. Which is also fun.
Which is also fun.
They talk about what just happened. They get real close, but they don't kiss.
Nope, no kissing.
No, again, yeah. This is the second
And
time.
it turns out somebody else survived this ordeal, and it's Gabriel. And Gabriel no longer has her wings, and John has to explain to us, human. Which means without wings, angels are just humans. Now I buy that because that's the exact same thing that Kevin Smith's Dogma told me.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that's fucking law now.
That's accurate.
He gets real pissed about the fact that Gabriel was a part of this whole plan, and so Gabriel presents him with his cross shotgun and tries to goad him into killing them in revenge, which John decides not to do and instead just punches them in the mouth and comments, "That's pain. Get used to it." which means I guess we're establishing here in the 0 hour that angels don't feel pain.
No, not until they're human.
But I guess that makes sense because they're like,
angels.
all powerful.
They're angels.
Yeah.
Divine beings.
Yeah,
It's fine. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's a little weak. Not bad. And so they walk away. Gabriel calls after John about, showing forgiveness, John. You're improving. Which, God damn it, if she's not the best part of this whole fucking movie. We then go back. John is standing on a rooftop with Angela, gives her the Spear of Destiny, and basically tells her, you got to find a place to hide this where not even I can find it. She's like, okay. That's the end of our relationship.
Weirdo.
She leaves.
Thanks for leaving this with me.
And then they almost kiss again here, don't they?
It's yet again. It's like, we're going to kiss. No, we're not. And so she leaves, and then
She's like, I know a place, Mexico.
I'm going to go marry this in this one spot.
I'm told the best things are buried in Mexico.
And then I'm gonna wrap it in a Nazi flag, so when someone uncovers it, they're not gonna know that it's evil.
They're gonna be like, "What? This must be fake."
Is this real?
And so she leaves the screen. I'm assuming leaves John's life as he gives a whole voiceover about being Constantine. I guess. I was really expecting it to be, because this is post Spider-Man and Daredevil did this shit.
Yeah,
I was really expecting it to end up the line of, "Who am I? I'm John Constantine."
And then he jumps off the side of the building as
he jumps off the building
as new metal starts playing.
As the hottest track from Saliva kicks in.
There is
Saliva
a perfect circle
or like
song
Evanescence.
Yes, Evanescence starts playing as he leaps off, and
or they could go real emo with it and go like Spider-Man 2 Dashboard Confessional just starts playing.
Yep.
Stain song.
And so
Stain, yeah.
we then make our way to the credits of Constantine. But
yes,
we're not done yet.
Wow.
Because at the end of the credits of Constantine, we return to this world, where we find John Constantine standing on the most movie set of cemeteries I've ever seen in my life.
And Samuel L. Jackson walks out and goes, "You think you're the only superhero?"
This is a post-credit scene before MCU.
Looking at a tombstone for Chaz, and he places his lighter on the tombstone and says, "You did good, kid." And as he goes to walk away, a pair of wings suddenly appear behind him, and he turns around to see that it's Chaz, who I guess is an angel now?
Yeah, he earned his wings.
And he flies up into the sky, leaving me to question,
what?
Do all people who die on Earth and don't go to hell become angels?
See, that's not the scene I got. The scene I got, Constantine puts the lighter down, he goes to walk away, and Patrick Swayze shows up behind him in angel form, and all of a sudden there's pottery showing up, and they just put... Keanu and Patrick Swayze both put their hands on the pottery as reunited Johnny Utah and Bodhi, and they just start making pottery to end the movie.
And then Sam Jackson goes, "You ever heard of the Avengers?"
And then just because, Brokeback Mountain was out at that time, they make a comment about how they can't quit each other, and then we cut to black.
Yep.
Demi Moore
I see that you got the sexy ending.
You got it separate. You got the alternate post-credit.
I think I got to choose your own adventure, and that's the one I chose.
You want to see the
because
sexy
of all
one?
the choices I made, I got the sexy ending.
Oh, that was quite a journey through 2005's Constantine. Delhauer. Well done. Amazing. Again, as usual. Let's take a break here. We're going to play some promos, and we're going to come back, find out what the fuck happened to Constantine right after this.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Dig on America.
Your organization's terrible.
Hey guys, this is Jason Dutch with Dig on America podcast, and I'm here with
Big Hops.
Do you have to say your name so weird?
How you want me to say?
And I'm also here with
Mikey Famine.
the excuser.
Do it over. No, it's staying.
No, it's staying the way it is because this is the way the show is. Dig on America here, we explore how American history, policies, and sometimes even our pop culture created the social and political issues facing Americans today. A little bit about us.
I'm your resident brother of the league. I love America so much that I demand she be better through constant criticism and protest. Thank you.
And in your Obama voice, Mikey, I don't like Obama.
Of course you don't. You also don't like bathing. And
and healthy meals. What Dig on America is it's a healthy criticism of a country.
America's already perfect. You should know we're perfect, just like my hands.
Well, I mean, a lot of people might say that, but those people probably haven't gone to school or brushed their teeth today. So, we're going to ignore them. But yeah, check out our show. It's unbeholden to any corporate overlords, except for Jay-Z, the Bilderberg Foundation.
George Soros sponsors.
George Soros, the Clinton Foundation.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget Emotep.
You can check out our website, digonamerica.com. You can check out all of our audio. We're on every single fucking audio podcast app there is out there, Pandora, Spotify, etc. Subscribe on YouTube. You can check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/DOA podcast. Hopefully you'll listen to the show, guys.
I won't.
Go fuck yourself.
Dig on America.
Jock and Nerd.
Listener, if you enjoy the show, there is an awesome fan club you can join and support the show. Visit jockandnerd.com/Patreon. Jock and Nerd, where you can support the show on a monthly or annual basis, and you'll get stuff. You get access to an exclusive podcast feed that has more content, bonus content. Anthony actually submitted the most recent piece of bonus content, Anthony. You did a big action movie bonanza there. What'd you review there?
Yeah, I did a smorgasbord of action movies that I've watched pretty recently and just haven't got around to recording some quick thoughts on. So some 80s, mostly 90s. I did Conan the Barbarian, Red Dawn, Point Break, and then I did the holy trinity of 90s Nicolas Cage action movies, Con Air, The Rock, and Face Off.
So I have to ask you guys.
Yes?
Have you all, I don't know if whether for the show or just in general, have you guys seen the movie Sudden Death starring Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I have not, but that's one on my list.
Definitely in the tournament.
Okay, excellent.
We will be watching that.
I would like to be involved when it comes to Sudden Death with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Because
you like that movie?
It is what I tend to believe to be the best Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
That's what a lot of people say. I don't remember having seen it, although I have very faint memories of Jean-Claude Van Damme playing goalie, which I think happens in this movie.
Yes, the best way to describe it is Sudden Death is what would happen if Die Hard took place at a Pittsburgh Penguins game during the Stanley Cup Championship.
That's what happens? Oh, my God.
Yes.
Oh, I got to watch this.
Yeah, I think that's a movie that's going to make our 90s tournament at some point.
Yes. And I mean, but you cannot go wrong with the Nick Cage trilogy of fucking Con Air, The Rock, and Face Off. Holy shit.
Oh, no, not at all.
That's
amazing.
Great.
That's amazing.
I think the first time my friends and I ever did a night where we referred to it as Rage in the Cage, I think those were the three movies we watched.
Yes. You can listen to that now on Patreon. It's part of the benefits you get. You also get access to our Discord hangout. We do once a month, like the third Thursday of every month. This month's, you guys, is this week, Thursday, August 18th. Delhauer, you're always welcome to join us. I love when you pop in.
I always love hanging out when I remember that you're doing it.
I will let you know.
I'm not going to be there.
Okay, Anthony rarely makes an appearance.
Just like last month when we tried to convince Anthony that he should join in while at the gym.
Shirtless, yeah. You wanted me to join shirtless at some point.
I didn't say shirtless. I just said I wanted to see you working out.
Right.
That would have been great. We almost got him.
Don't you put words in my mouth. I'll make myself sound gay.
Rock Boy will be there, even though he's not here today. But he often pops in, and it's a lot of fun. And check it out, jockandnerd.com/Patreon. Support the show. Okay, Delhauer, what the fuck happened to Constantine? And did we make a mistake picking this movie? Because, look, aside from the fact that in the comics, visually, it's completely different. In the comics, John Constantine is blonde, and he's from Liverpool, right? And clearly, Keanu isn't going to fucking even attempt a British accent, and his stories are all set in, like, England, in London. And so they change all of that, and they make Surfer Boy, Los Angeles setting, Constantine. But it's a reimagining, so what's your take? What the fuck happened here?
So, what it turns out to be was Warner Brothers had been shopping around trying to get a Constantine movie made, or a Constantine movie made, potentially, since, like, the mid-90s.
Oh.
And really the biggest thing that was holding them back was the first scripts that they were writing were more based on the comics, where they were centered around John Constantine being this smarmy British street magician who deals with magic and demons and all that kind of stuff, set in London.
Yeah.
And all of the major studios... Well, so I guess it wasn't Warner Brothers that was doing it at the time then, because what it was all the major studios that they tried to bring it to basically said, no, we're not going to make this unless you make unless you make them an American.
Okay.
So they're like, all right, well, we'll try here. No. If it's not an American, we won't touch it. And so being British doomed this movie to being in production hell for like 6 years. But apparently by like the late 90s, they then went, all right, fine, we'll set it in LA and we'll make him American, and that's what we're going to go with. And they wound up getting picked up, I'm going to say by Warner Brothers, but at the same time, I guess what it was they kept trying to pitch the script and Warner Brothers just kept saying no.
Yeah.
Because it's not like anyone else was going to do a DC property. Warner Brothers finally said yes when they said, okay, we'll make it an American character. It'll be set in London or in Los Angeles. And they wound up bringing in and attaching Tarsem Singh as director.
Oh.
Anyone who does not recognize that name, and I fully understand why, Tarsem Singh directed The Cell, starring Jennifer Lopez.
Yep.
The Fall, and Immortals, which came out in the late 2000s. Now, these are all movies that, by name, you're probably not going to recognize immediately. What pops out to me, though, is that these are all movies that are highly stylized visually in how they're presented. The concept of The Cell is that Jennifer Lopez plays a social services worker who winds up teaming up with the FBI to use a new form of technology that allows her to enter the mind of a serial killer that's in a coma in order to try and find out, like, where he buried the bodies of his victims. But because it's in his mind, it's all very dreamscape and weird and, like, very hyper-stylized.
It's a pretty good movie.
So the thing is that the idea of Tarsem Singh bringing on doing a Constantine movie means this movie would have been trippy as fuck.
Tarsem also, he did the Losing My Religion video for REM, which was trippy as fuck and like a weird fucking video.
Again, like any director that came around in the time after Michael Bay, if you had done music videos, you were going to get a movie.
Yeah, they were all doing music videos, yeah.
And at that time, they apparently had approached both Kevin Spacey and Mel Gibson at one point to play John Constantine.
Wow, both hugely problematic people. Interesting.
I was going to say, in the late 90s, very popular. Down the road, major problems. But ultimately, they settled on Nicolas Cage.
Oh man.
Cage almost got this fucking role.
Cage was signed on to be John Constantine.
Oh, wow.
Wait, when did Ghost Rider come
out? Ghost Rider came out in 2000. I think it was 2005 as well.
Wow. Let's see. No, 2007. So 2 years ago.
2007. Yeah. Okay. Problem was that when Singh decided, I don't really like the script that you guys are giving me and just ducked out of the movie, Cage basically got dropped.
Oh, shit.
And I don't know if it was, I couldn't find out anywhere whether it was his decision or if the studio got rid of him.
Okay, better or worse with Cage? Which way would it have gone? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's better.
Cage.
You think it would have been more
psychotic? It's more psychotic than what's already
crazy.
happening.
I would say with Cage, he definitely would have emoted more, and he would have gone to 11 in a lot of scenes.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of finger pointing.
And also, I think that Cage could have brought more of the smarminess that is Constantine from the comics.
Yeah, because he's a dick, right? He's an asshole.
Like, he is an asshole, but like the big thing is that in the comics, like John Constantine's like a fucking carny.
Right.
Yes.
Like he's charismatic and he can make you believe things, but like you also realize like this dude's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
Whereas
Keanu
Reeves, just one note, he's just playing.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves. It's just like it's sarcasm, and that is the most you get out of him.
It's him doing Neo. It's like I have to be an asshole, so I'm going to do like that scene where he's smoking in the elevator, and you just read it and you're like, oh, he's an asshole, but then you see it on screen, you're just like, that's just Keanu. Like it's not. He's just trying. He's just playing an asshole in that second, but he's not really an asshole.
I put it to you this way: can you imagine Nicolas Cage performing the exorcism scene on the little girl in the opening of the movie.
Yeah, he's probably climbing the ceiling.
Yeah.
The moment where he's pressing the metal against her head, I could immediately then just hear, "It's Constantine! John Constantine, asshole!"
Yes.
Like, it would have been so fucking batshit.
Yeah.
By the way, my favorite line, I think we skipped over it, was like when they're talking about God making plans, and then he just goes, "God's just a kid with an ant farm, kid. He ain't planning anything." I was that's it. That's the best line of the whole movie right there.
It is also a good line.
What I'll say this. I mean, clearly miscasted, right? If you're following the comics at all, clearly, like, so unbelievably.
No matter who.
Yeah. No
matter who in that lineup.
Yeah. So, and to choose Keanu is like so unbelievably miscasted, yet he does fine.
It works.
This
it
little
works
version,
for what they give him.
Yeah. For the material he has, which is in being asked to not really emote, he does fine.
It's very obvious that I guarantee you a lot of the scripts got changed once Keanu came on because they were like, "Look, man, we gotta skew it more Matrix."
100%.
Reduce his lines and just make him Keanu lines, and that's what they did.
Yeah, just give him his cool moments.
Yeah, they just literally just did Matrix, and they were. This was like right after this. Keanu makes that Alien movie where he actually plays an alien, and he's just
the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Right, and just like that's just full on Keanu at that point, where he's just like, I'm now just playing myself in movies. I'm just gonna be cool, weird Keanu that can't emote or do anything.
It was literally the moment that people were like, you guys realize like you kind of have to like turn into the fact that like he doesn't act, right? And they're like, yeah, sure. And what I think is really interesting about it though is that if you look at his career over time, you look at the stuff he did in the 80s, like, you know, with Bill and Ted and you know, a lot of that stuff moving forward. There's a cutoff point right in like the early 2000s, like just around the time of Matrix and moving forward from there, where that just stops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what the saddest thing about that is I'm pretty sure that's right around the time that his fiance died. And so it's like you hit this moment where like fun, energetic Keanu just died with her.
Yeah.
And now he's just Keanu.
Yeah.
And so it's like
comedy.
Because especially like when I saw the third Bill and Ted movie, like the biggest thing about it that I like pointed out to me was like yeah, Alex Winter fell right back into that character because he's like energetic and having fun with it, but like Keanu Reeves, like he doesn't have it in him to ever be that again.
He loves being John Wick, where he doesn't have to talk; he just has to fucking be badass.
John Wick, but there was a portion of his career in the mid to late 2000s up into the 2010s where his career was kind of sliding the wrong way. John Wick really saved his career again and made him
John Wick
back
was
to being
first
Keanu.
Keanu-sans. Yes.
Yeah.
So they wound up bringing on Francis Lawrence to direct. They decided on Keanu. There was never really any talk between them losing their first build of the movie and then coming to this one, where there was any like back and forth about who was going to direct or who was going to be starring in it. I think it was like the moment that they were able to like secure Keanu, like everything just kind of fell into place because Warner Brothers was like, yeah, you know, he made a lot of money for us with the Matrix movies. We trust him in the role. We'll throw this music director guy in there. He'll do whatever the fuck we tell him. But like Lawrence was still also able to have a lot of like his own visual direction to it.
Yeah.
And so from there, I think the big thing that really kind of fell apart was we were still in 2005, we were still in a place where comic book movies were starting to become prevalent. They were starting to become popular, but they weren't, you know, we were still 3 years away from Iron Man. So like a comic book movie that is meant to be more comic book than movie still was not a thing for anybody outside of maybe Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But Spider-Man consistently felt like it was the exception because Sam Raimi had the pull and the balls to say, no, I'm making a comic book that's also a movie. Whereas anybody else who was doing that, the studios were like, no. We can't gamble on the idea that this colorful, crazy bullshit cartoon world will work. We have to make an action movie that's based on a comic.
I give him credit for making like an R-rated kind of horror version of it.
And so the interesting thing about that is that I lump Constantine in with like the 2004 Thomas Jane Punisher.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
where the concept is it is a movie that is based on a comic book property that as anyone who knows the comic book property can pick out the pieces that they kind of fed into it from the source material.
Right.
But ultimately, the plan was we're making an action movie, but we also have things we can base it on so we don't have to do as much work.
You know what's funny about watching this movie is for the first time, literally an hour, 2 to 3 hours ago, is having been inundated now with MCU stuff and having the perspective or the perception that this movie was kind of a joke because Keanu's in it and it doesn't follow the comics at all as far as his characterization. I threw on the movie, and it's a what the fuck happened, and I threw it on and I went, surprisingly more refreshing than I thought and not as shitty of a what the fuck as we've done. Like,
I had
not even close. Not even close to the shitty movies we've done.
The funny thing is that's kind of the reason I wanted to do this movie. I remember when I saw Constantine, I enjoyed the shit out of this movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it was an enjoyable action movie.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I was told by people this movie's bad because it doesn't follow the books.
Right.
And like my thought was like, oh wow, is it really like that shitty? I didn't realize, like, because I fucking had fun. But that's because it was aimed at me. I was the general audience at the time where I didn't know shit about Constantine, but I like comic books. So I want to like see this and check out this character. And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this was fun. They did like, I like the mythology they built. The world building they did was really interesting. They didn't spoon feed shit to me. They didn't pretend like I was a fucking moron throughout the movie. I mean, maybe a little bit because the story's kind of stupid at times, but like it still was good enough to like get through.
Yeah.
And it was good enough for them to fucking double their production money worldwide.
Right.
So like, truth be told, Constantine's not a failure.
No,
in any sense.
I don't think so. I think it came out at a time where things were still being figured out. And again, you cast Keanu at a time when he's simply just Keanu, and that kind of just took over the narrative of the movie.
Yeah, and it's, again, in the same way with the Thomas Jane Punisher, it's the concept of this is a movie that if you're able to approach it and be like, look, I know the source material, because at the time I loved the Punisher comics when I saw that movie. I knew what they were pulling from. I'd read a whole bunch of it, and I recognized the places where it was different, but the thing that I didn't let dictate my enjoyment of the movie was just being like, oh, well, it's not exactly like the comic book.
Right.
Like, sure, the characterization of John Constantine's very different. He's, we get nothing that says he's bisexual. He's not British. He's not blonde. Right. He doesn't wear the iconic costume. The
coat.
And like, instead of being a guy who can cast spells and, bring fire up with his hands and talk to the dead, he's like a religious James Bond who has a bunch of funky, relic gadgets that allow him to fight the dead. That's still fucking dope, though.
Yeah, no, the whole thing's like an occult thriller, serial killer kind of mystery. And look at the theological conversations that come up, the take on God and the devil wagering, on Earth and throwing things in the mix. Like, God's kind of an asshole in this.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting.
And the other thing that I really like is that the actors that were in this movie had a lot of say in how they went forward with their characterizations of the characters.
Oh.
I mean, maybe not Keanu. I don't know how much input he had because, let's face it, if he did, it means his characterization was like, I think I should smoke less. But like, so the design of Lucifer that Peter Stormare plays.
Yeah.
That costume Peter Stormare came up with.
No way. Wow.
The original design that the producers and Francis Lawrence came up with was this generic bullshit idea of like, oh, he's going to wear leather pants and a spiked dog collar.
Oh, God.
And he's going to have tattoos all over. Like the idea of what like a Midwestern virgin in the fucking 80s would have thought the devil was.
Cliched. Yeah.
And Stormare was like, I hate this. And he's like, I have an idea based on the concept of what you're bringing about of this religious like mythology that I want to go with. And he said, if Lucifer's a fallen devil, why is he suddenly dressing like a fucking gimp in an S&M like club? He would be dressed as the angel he used to be, but tainted.
The devil.
So it was
white.
the off-white linen suit.
That's crazy.
With the staining of the tar on his feet because the tar The original design they apparently had for Hell before they did the whole like blown up fucking, Hiroshima look was Hell was basically going to be like the Void from Stranger Things, where it's just this black nothingness with this reflective tar like water floor.
Okay.
And that was it. And so when his idea for the costume came from that original design of Hell, where he said the tar on the feet was the idea of he was an angel that got brought down to heaven and he can never reascend because the tar is holding him in place.
Oh, man, that's good. It's also like you think about like melted asphalt in Los Angeles, and it's just all over his feet.
Absolutely.
It's really smart.
Even just the sound design of how you see it drip on the ground and start sizzling before he appears. And as he falls to the ground, he's in the crucifixion pose as he lands.
Wow.
Like, it's everything that he does is a fucking insult to God.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's fucking brilliant.
What's great, too, is like his speech pattern, and it's just he's taking a risk with the character, and it works. Like, this movie, in a lot of ways, we mentioned visually how there was a lot of really nice visuals in this movie, and there's a lot of good, like, tone setting and world building. And then you just throw in Peter Stormare as the demon, and like there's just way better actors and actresses in this movie than there ever should be, and they're all other than Shia LaBeouf, who's kind of doing he's acting like he's in a completely different movie.
The thing that I think is very telling about Shia LaBeouf's performance is apparently he got this role because he had like sort of a bit side character part in iRobot. The year before. And apparently, as the movie was getting made, Akiva Goldsman was one of the producers on Constantine. And Will Smith reached out to him and said, like, hey, I think that you should give a role to this Shia LaBeouf kid because I worked with him on iRobot and I thought he was great. I can't really remember a lot about iRobot, but I feel like he played the same fucking character.
Probably.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, was like, he was told by like, Akiva Goldsman, like, you got this character because of your role in like iRobot. And so Shia LaBeouf was like, oh, so I have to play the exact same character then. I understand having sort of a comedic relief character tied up into this. Like, I feel like if everybody was so fucking dead set serious, this movie wouldn't have been as good. But the problem is that it's so very obviously like a growing up child actor in that role, where it's like, this is his idea of like, this is what's funny.
Right.
Me being street. I'm a street kid.
He's so
it's
young.
Like, you're like fucking 19, dude. Like, Jesus.
It doesn't seem like Keanu's character would ever be like, you know what? I'm going to take this annoying little kid to be my personal cabbie. Like, it doesn't seem like that those guys would ever get along.
I feel like there had to have been a scene where they explained why Chaz was involved that they just got rid of, because like in the comics, Chaz is like the last friend that John has from his childhood.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, that it's like, the dude I grew up with is now working with me in this job that I'm doing where I like hunt demons, versus this 19-year-old kid with no background who seems to own a taxi cab.
You know how hard it is to get a fucking medallion to drive those taxis? Jesus.
What's the reason why this didn't live on with sequels?
So I think part of it had to do with the fact that the critics ripped this shit apart.
Okay.
Like, they ultimately were like, it's banking on the popularity of The Matrix because, what was it, Matrix 2 and 3 came out 2 years before this?
Yeah.
So it's like, they're banking on Keanu Reeves' star power with The Matrix, but it's not as philosophical, it's not as interesting, and it's not as, like, fully stylish as those, so it's whatever. And I think what it was... At the time, I wouldn't be surprised if Keanu was like, I don't want to go near this again because people didn't like it. I mean, it made a shit ton of money, and Warner Brothers loves money, but I feel like the fact that this was 2005, they put out Constantine and they put out Batman Begins. And guess which one got the buzz and the other didn't?
I mean, the movie's a little bit long. We could use a little trimming. Like, it's
a little long, yeah.
Bogs down here and there, But this movie, I believe, does go on to be like a cult favorite. Like, I think a lot of people really love this movie now.
I feel like in the same vein as the Thomas Jane Punisher, like when it came out, it just kind of was met with this very meh attitude.
Yeah.
And as time went on, people are like, this is actually a lot better than we gave it credit for.
I was surprised. I was like, there's some cool shit in here. It is pretty influential. Let me tell you why. Because I also just watched Day Shift on Netflix. That's that Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco, Snoop Dogg vampire hunting movie.
Oh, yes.
And first of all, the movie's okay. It's fine. It's a little forgettable. There's some fun action scenes. But they have a similar scene where they're making bullets. They have a similar character who knows everything about the occult because he's read books. They have a scene that also takes place in a bowling alley, and Peter Stormare is also in Day Shift. So I was like, this is, look at this, Constantine, hugely influential.
Fun fact, I'm looking at the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Director Francis Lawrence definitely, acknowledges that this movie's become sort of a cult classic.
Yeah.
And Keanu Reeves in December of 2021 said, I would love to be John Constantine again.
Yeah, there's been talk of sequels. Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you want to see a sequel, and would you want Keanu back in this? Now,
I think, so in the time since the movie has come out, we have seen another John Constantine.
Yes, Matt Ryan, who is great.
I will tell you, if I had to choose between the two, I would want Matt Ryan anywhere, all the time, playing John Constantine. He is a fucking riot.
He does the voice in a lot of the cartoons also, and
I don't know if you guys watched the one season they made of the Constantine show.
It's good. He had his own TV show. He was on the Arrowverse, Legends of Tomorrow.
Fucking banging. I loved that show. And when I found out it was not getting a season 2, I was pissed.
Like, I would love to see him in an R-rated movie because he fakes smoking because it's TV, but I want to see him smoking and swearing and being full Constantine. But in this reimagined universe, I feel like you almost got to bring Keanu back. I don't know why.
No, if you're going to do a sequel to the movie, you bring back Keanu.
Matt Ryan needs a movie.
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is that I know there has been talk recently. I think we have mentioned in the notes here that they are talking about doing a series on an HBO Max.
Yes.
That would be filming sometime next year.
It begins production next year now. Well, we talked about the Zaslav and him fucking killing things. Apparently, this show is safe, and it is going to begin production next year.
It does sound like DC is going through another shift.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Zaslav would want to make a Constantine movie unless he knew for sure Keanu wanted to do it. But I think it might, as you mentioned, it might be destined for TV. I don't know if we ever get a sequel to it. I think this is just one of those movies that was just a fun moment in time, but I don't know if we ever see a sequel per se.
I don't think we'll see a sequel, but I want to see Matt Ryan in a HBO Max TV show, unbridled, R-rated.
Give him the ability to go balls to the wall with the whole entire thing, and I think he would fucking run with it.
The third version of Constantine that you can also check out is on the new Sandman show, Neil Gaiman's adaptation on Netflix. There was a legal issue that prevented them from using John Constantine, so they have gender swapped the role. It's Joanna Constantine. She's like the same character. She's related to John, kind of, but it works really well. It's a pretty good show. I like the Sandman. Let me just share, like we said, it's cult favorite. I got to share a comment from Blake Braden. When you posted your little video of notes, Blake goes, "Let's go. I don't care that he wasn't British. I don't care that he didn't have blonde hair. I don't care that he wasn't bisexual. I don't care if this is a what the fuck episode. I fucking love this movie.
I fucking loved it.
Constantine. John Constantine.
Is this the best movie that you've done of what the fuck for, Delhauer?
I would have to go back and check my notes. Based on Rotten Tomatoes scores. I don't know off the top of my head.
Your personal opinion.
Yeah.
Personal, I think this is the best movie we have done.
Over Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah.
Did we do Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah, we did do Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises is such a disappointment.
Dark Knight Rises is fine. It's fun. This is a movie where, when we watch Dark Knight Rises, the more I watch it, the more I just feel like I have to pick it apart because it's so lauded as this amazing achievement of comic book cinema.
Yeah.
Whereas for this movie, it's one of those ones where it's I don't feel that burden because, like, I just have fucking fun with it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I watch Dark Knight Rises and I'm like, how did he get back to Gotham?
Yes, I
Wait,
was
how did
thinking-
he
yes.
get to India?
I was just thinking
Wait,
about
why
that.
did that happen?
How did he get
Why
out-
is it nighttime now?
Yeah.
Whereas for this movie, I'm like, fucking let's do this shit.
Yeah.
Kill them demons,
Yeah,
bitch.
dude. He fucking John Wick's out and slaughter. It's fucking. There's some really cool moments, and I was like, huh, maybe we picked the wrong movie.
Yeah, this
for what
doesn't
the fuck
belong
happened.
in the stench of a what the fuck happened, although it is fun to talk about.
It is fun to talk about. Yeah.
Let's see. Did I miss anything in my notes about this? Number one, this movie is a part of Roger Ebert's most hated films of all time.
Oh, excellent. Notoriety. Yeah, he did not like this. I read that review, I think. I don't know why.
So I made mention at the one point about how Michelle Monaghan was playing a demon that was just like randomly in the hospital
who
when
is
he
that?
started killing all of them.
Yeah.
So she had a much bigger role in this film that they cut almost all of it
I
out.
heard that.
She played Ellie, based on Chantanelli from the comics, a half demon, half succubus, I believe, in the comics. That would have been John's lover in the film.
Oh, shit.
But Lawrence felt that having John be alone throughout made the story more poignant as he went through it.
Oh. You know what? We didn't need a forced romance in there, did we?
Well, and that's the thing. With all the times that we're teasing whether he will or won't kiss Rachel Weisz,
Yeah.
like, to be like, oh, but he's already banging this half demon on the side,
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I feel about this. I guess maybe it's the idea of like, oh, he is a sexual being, but like he won't do that with her because she's pure or some dumb shit.
Would have made the movie a little longer, so I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Cut out.
Yeah. One of the big differences between the comic outside of how he looks and his sexual preferences. In the movie, they say that the reason he is damned to hell upon his death is because he once committed suicide and died for 2 minutes.
Right.
In the comic, it was that at one point when he was younger, John Constantine summoned a demon into his own body that he could not control, and it dragged a young girl to hell.
Ooh, he was experimenting there with the magics early.
So the interesting thing is that in the movie, Gabriel makes reference to him about you cannot go to heaven because of the life that you took.
Oh.
And so if you're a fan of the comics, you'd be like, oh, that little girl he killed. And then you find out the reason is the life he took was his own.
Gotcha.
Character of Father Hennessy was actually a mixture of 3 different characters from the comics. Nige Archer, a friend of John Constantine's, was a psychic. Rick the Vic, who was a priest, and Heder, who was a portly substance abuser. And all 3 of them, like Hennessy, all died in their storylines due to being associated with Constantine.
Yeah, you don't want to be friends with John, you're going to be dead. Papa Midnight also from the comics, I believe, right?
Papa Midnight, in fact, from the comics. I believe, I don't know if he runs a nightclub, but I mean, you know, he's a witch doctor associate.
Yeah, these half-breeds got a party somewhere, you know.
Last bit I have, this is a fun little piece. Francis Lawrence adamantly refused, despite studio pressure, to add a romantic angle in which Angela and Constantine would fall in love.
Yeah.
He felt that the idea of them finding a romance in this dark and abysmal story didn't make sense to him. This was at the behest of Rachel Weisz, who admitted when she was filming the role that she was really hoping she would get to kiss Keanu Reeves while filming.
They could have just filmed that anyways for her and not used it.
This is apparently the second movie the 2 of them worked on. They were in Chain Reaction in 1996 together.
Shit. Oh. Yeah, I mean, again, we always complain about, they got to do the kissing and the forced love interest. I mean, I think it worked. He may have been right on that one.
I honestly, yes, I agree that I believe the idea of the 2 of them then becoming like a romantic couple is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It is very 90s. It's very like cheesy.
Yeah.
It's like a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I fell in love with the woman I was dealing with this week.
Yeah,
like
every movie.
Nah.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I have anything else.
All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, and that is John Constantine.
Fantastic.
There we go.
Tilda Swinton steals the movie. That's what we find out. Delhauer, thank you so much for your time and effort and work. It is much appreciated. Why don't you tell a listener, you want to plug anything where they can say hello or leave you a friendly piece of comment on the What the Fuck Happened?
If you guys want to try and interact with me on the internet, good luck. No, I'm kidding. I'm constantly on social media because I'm insecure and plugged in. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, if you really feel the necessary. All of them are at MattyDVO72, MattyDVO72. At the same time, there are plans to at least get maybe one episode of the Ginger Geek podcast out before the end of the year because I have some ideas, I have some inspiration, I have a new microphone set up.
There you go.
I just have to actually, get the writing and stuff put together. So, executive dysfunction, activate.
Fuck it. Do it a yearly show. Once a year it comes out. That's fine. We take your time.
So we'll see what comes of that. But, maybe I'll make it a special treat for y'all because I love you and I hate me.
Oh. What are you doing over there on the TikToks? What kind of stuff is over there?
Just stupid shit.
Yeah?
Doesn't fucking matter,
Okay.
man. That's what TikTok is.
I guess that's what it is. Check it out.
Every so often, maybe I'll put up a video, but mostly I'll just scroll through it and waste 3 hours of my life.
Well, listener, I will put links to all of that in the show notes. Visit our website, jockandnerd.com. If you want to get in touch, support the show, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening to the Jock and Nerd podcast. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's a nerd.
We'll peep you next time.
I really don't give a shit.
Oh, there's Rux.
Lame. Fuck that show.
Jock and Nerd.